What is up, everybody? My name is Hector Flores, host of the Insert Name FC podcast, a member of the Belly Up Sports Media Network. You can find us on all things podcasting, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast fix from. You can find us there. Just look up Insert Name FC, and you'll find us there. Full video version of this podcast is available on Belly Up's YouTube channel. Full video version, you can see my face. Probably is gonna be pretty important because there's a lot of visuals. Specifically for this episode. But with all that being said, though, also check out our YouTube channel, Insert Name FC. We break down these episodes into shorter clips, so that way you can watch it on our YouTube channel. So that is another way you can watch it. Please like and subscribe over there. Now, this episode is our end of the year episode, so we will be taking a break. Won't be coming back till January 15th. So for that reason, this episode is going to be a little bit lengthier because obviously we have to go through all the Power 5 leagues of Europe, see where everybody's standing, kind of going into that second half of the season. Also, Liga MX final concluded, so we're going to recap the final. And, of course, it is the end of the year episode, so we are going to announce the 2025 Roosevelt Spencer's Player of the Year Award. So it's going to be a long episode, so if you guys we're not going to have a new episode till January 15th, so if you guys want to take your time with this episode, I totally get it. It is going to be a long one. It is the end of the year episode, so that is, with that being said. Now, we are going through the Power 5 League. So we have Liga, which Moussa is coming on to talk about that with me. For Bundesliga and Serie A, Kelcey Coyne of High Low Sports will be joining on, and La Liga and the Premier League is José Téllez of Goals TV to discuss it. Now, I was working really hard to try to get somebody to come in to announce the Player of the Year award. Fortunately, that's not happening, but we'll still do the whole announcement and everything about that. But yes, it is going to be a long episode. I get it. I don't know how long it's going to be. Maybe I would argue almost 4 hours. Almost 4 hours. I don't know if it is, but that's what I'm calling it right now. So I'm not going to try to make this episode any longer than it's already going to be. But yes, so this episode is going to be a big one. Obviously, it's the end of the year episode, so it's going to be a lengthy one. But take time. Don't have to listen all the way through from start to finish. But it is there. So, yeah, end of the year episode. Get ready. We're going to take a break and then go right into Ligue 1 with Moussa of Mo Football TV. Let me tell you guys about Belly Up Sports. Belly Up Sports is the internet sports bar. Go ahead and check out their website, www.bellyupsports.com, to read some great articles from great writers all across the country, from hockey, baseball, golf, soccer, you name it. Belly Up Sports is the premier, not your average website. All right, guys, it is obviously end of the year episode, so we're going to go through all the leagues, the Power 5 leagues at least, and back-to-back episode appearances for Moussa over here. Obviously, he has a very good familiarity with Ligue 1, I would say. Being, once again, I have to flex it every time when you're on. He did play for PSG's academy. I always gotta flex that. That's like one of the coolest things ever.
I don't know if it's a flex, but yeah, I'll take it.
I mean,
I'm old.
That's a good academy. It's a good academy to be a part of, and
Yeah, most people probably didn't know about PhD by that time until recently.
I gotta ask about that. Like, obviously, now that now your kids are now playing in the youth levels. Like, how would you obviously, it's a very obvious comparison, but like comparing it to the football that you played when you were playing in France.
I think it's almost twofold though, because I think in our time World Cup '98, if you recall, France was still doing well, but it was the up and down. So the structure post '98 World Cup is totally different than what it was in our time. So a lot of our time is when the neighborhood clubs where you don't really pay for it. It's like everybody plays around. If you show a little bit of skills, then you get to move to club soccer, and then an academy or someone knows about you, they kind of bring you in, and then you kind of start moving up their academy section. Now, post '98, once France won the World Cup, think they almost restructured everything where soccer became, we want to be a powerhouse.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the whole country pretty much follow one system. And I think those familiar here always, Clairefontaine, which is like the center where anyone that is known to do well will almost go there, maybe 3, 6 months at a time to kind of see who will be making to the national team, youth national team.
Mm.
And then from there, you start progressing from, the U13 all the way to the first team. And that's why a whole bunch of those guys know each other since they were teenagers. And
Mm.
now they're in the first team due to the fact that they've played together for 10 plus years before even make it to the senior level.
How was it approached to you, the whole like PSG Academy?
I think for me specifically was just playing because where I grew up is called Sarcelles, which is like the 95th. Pretty much for us, the state is what we pretty much for us is 95. So it's just see you playing around the neighborhood, and then after that, it's like, hey, do you want to try out? Then you have to try out, and then you make it to their academy where pretty much now they take care of you mostly. They have the pro players, pro coaches, and then it's more of a structured environment, and then you kind of move up the chain. And most of it as well is then you get the education, and for those that necessarily won't make it to the pro rank, then there's always the option of like sending you to a direction of, the front office or coaches. And unfortunately, that's probably where my skill level kind of stopped.
Mm.
It's like you're good enough, but not good enough.
Yeah, I mean that's obviously like the harshest realities that comes with the academy system. Like
Oh,
even when I was at the Dynamo Academy, like one of the interesting things that I was talked to throughout the hiring process for the Dynamo was they really liked my military background
right,
because of the fact that like I think you can help like maybe talk to the guys that maybe this isn't gonna be their career path, and you could be that person that like because they asked me about like my decision into why I joined the military, like
right.
how did I come to that final choice, and I was like. Honestly, the straight up answer was I was an idiot. So not like dumb for joining the military,
Yeah.
not
Well,
not
yeah,
not
you
for
were
that.
a kid.
I was a kid. I had real no direction. If I went to college, I would have probably been in massive debt because I just wasn't a good college. Like I was barely a good like high school student. So imagine if I was in
Yeah,
college. So at least not having to, especially when you're like you're on your own time schedule.
right.
You know, some schools like you don't even have to show up to class sometimes. So
Mm-mm.
like to put a kid like me in there that was like notoriously lazy to be put in that environment, like I was just not going to be a good college kid. Trade school, I probably would have done very well, just
Right.
because like that I can't miss a day. Versus, but I think for me, I made the decision I made to join the military was because of that. I was like, I need structure. I've always wanted to join the military, like since I
Right.
was a kid, and so it just made sense that you know what, I don't know what really I want to do. I know I've always wanted to do military. Let me go join the military, and honestly, I still say to this day was the best decision I ever made for myself
It
because of the
worked out
fact
well.
it worked out pretty well for myself. Um, maybe I should have kept up with the exercising part, but I think, but I digress.
You're not alone, trust me. You're not you're not alone.
But yeah, so and it's like kind of the same thing for these guys. Some of these guys, I mean, I keep up with them. Some of them still think not saying that don't give up on your dreams, but there are
Right.
guys that are just like, dude, you're like your games are being like televised like through a website, like not even a good website, like everything's like sketchy kind of looking.
Mhm.
I'm like, dude, just unfortunately,
Eh,
it's you might as well just join the workforce, go get your education. A lot of guys refuse to go to college soccer because they just didn't want to be a student. They just wanted to be a soccer player, which I mean, I get it, if you want to keep chasing that dream, but I think there's a lot of players that do end up eventually having to have that realization that like this is the end of the road for me. I need to
Right.
seek another path. And I mean, some of those guys tend to become really good coaches because of them being able to accept. I mean, like some of the coaches at the Dynamo Academy were those guys that were like, I just know I wasn't gonna go pro,
Yep.
but I'm really good at sharing my knowledge to the future. And I've got to meet some really cool guys. One guy got to be a goalkeeper coach for Calvary. I believe now he's at Lexington. So
Nice.
like everybody doing great things from that aspect, and I think it's good for players to see that, young players especially. Like the reality is some of them you're just not gonna make it. Like you can only it's the 10% for a reason. At the end of the
It's
day,
a rough business, and
yeah,
you're being nice when you say 10%. That's
yeah,
especially
yeah, yeah.
these days.
Yeah, and so, and especially with the MLS, where it's probably more, we're looking for guys elsewhere besides their, you don't see many academy players coming up. I mean, I know St. Louis just had like an academy player kind of finally get his opportunities, but
Yeah.
that's it, right? It's just one guy that we hear every once in a while that gets their opportunity, where we should be hearing more of these guys, especially the ones that are doing good. Because I think St. Louis, your second team, your MLS next team was actually.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much kind of lost towards kids quarterfinals, but yeah, we've had I think three or four of those academy for MLS2 guys, but also the CD2, I think have like five or six academy kids that actually came to the academy and played for the two. So, and I think there's almost 20, 30 players that are actually being sent to college as well. So,
Which
you know,
honestly, I think that's also a great route. Like now that I got to talk to a lot of guys that did play college soccer and learning the benefits that college soccer comes in, because I mean,
right.
let's be honest, like 18 years old, what are the chances that you got like 40 pounds of muscle on you? Like you probably don't, and so
It's rare.
and college soccer does help you in that aspect to
Yeah.
learn how to be a physical player. Which I mean, if you're going to be part of CONCACAF, that might be helpful.
Hey,
So.
if you're a late bloomer, why not go to college? Get your education at the same time, and a lot of them now have those NLE deals too. So hey,
Mhm.
maybe you might be able to make enough to pursue that dream extended for a little bit more, a few years. But yeah,
Exactly.
it's a hard sport. It's good
It
to let the kids know
it's a
that
cutthroat sport. Yep.
yes,
It's
there's
very
just
cutthroat.
a few that make it.
Yeah, there's a reason you got to be a once in a lifetime player sometimes, or just
Yes.
just be lucky. That honestly, it is a lot of luck as well. Like I've met a lot of people. Like growing up, I've met a lot of people that I'm like, man, this guy's way too good to be playing on Sunday League.
Yeah. Oh, trust me, these kids these days have it much easier than what the path we had. I mean, it was rough, even here. If you wanted to make it over the past, what, 10 plus years, it was
hmm
rough.
Yeah, exactly. But obviously, guys, we're here to talk about Ligue 1. We are at the halfway point of the season, or at least quote unquote the halfway point of the season because
Yeah.
we're taking a break. So for you guys that are gonna flip out because they're like, oh wait a minute, the tables are. I look at the tables right now. No, the tables doesn't look like this. If you're watching the video version, there somewhere around the video is gonna say the date of when we're discussing this, so that way you guys know that's when we talked about it. Things could change. Obviously, it's Saturday for people that are listening to the audio version. It's Saturday, December 13th. So yes, I mean the table's going to change because there's still like a few matches that need to be played on Sunday. So I
Yes.
totally understand it, but it's the midway point. It's not when we're at the end of the road when the table's set. That's when I should probably be worried about being more accurate. Right now we're fine. I don't think it's gonna
Yeah.
be drastic changes as we go
Mm,
in here, but uh, yeah. So if you guys don't fully are aware with League On, it is an 18 team table. Relegation is from 18 to 17, 16 technically, but they get a play-in game. So they have a chance to actually stay on League On. Obviously, sixth place gets a Europa Conference League spot. Europa League goes to fifth, and then second, third, and fourth obviously are in a Champions League. Except fourth gets a play-in for Champions League. So that's where it kind of gets a little interesting there. And then obviously the champion, which obviously pretty straightforward. Surprise, surprise.
hey,
It's PSG, which I forgot to type in. PSG currently on top of the table. I don't think there's any surprise to it. I think and obviously, Musa, you are the PSG fan. The true PSG fan.
Uh, that's starting a fight, but yeah, born and raised. Let's put it that way.
Okay, yeah, okay, I'll say it like that. But obviously, because when the money came in and then the names came in, obviously that was a team that most people hopped on
Right.
immediately after. But you were there before the money, so
Way before.
way before the money. But obviously, currently on top of the table with 36 points. Um, anything that obviously a lot different from last year because PSG was undefeated going into this part of the year,
Yeah.
last year. But what do you feel that's a little bit different from this PSG's team? Feels a little bit quiet. I don't think people are talking about PSG as much in recent time. Obviously, a team that completed something as massive as the treble that they accomplished this past season, and almost had a quadruple when winning the
But they actually had quadruple. I think what was
oh the
missing.
super
Yeah.
the Super Cup difference, right?
Yeah, and yeah, so they pretty much had four. Yeah.
Oh, so they were on the cusp of having a fifth trophy if it wasn't for Chelsea.
Yes.
Um, but but yeah, amazing, spectacular year for PSG last year under Luis Enrique. A very emotional, run for the Champions League. But what is it about this PSG team that maybe we're just not focusing on right now?
Um, well, I think maybe it's the fatigue, maybe of talking about, what everything they've accomplished, but also I think one of the biggest thing that I see now is since like Dembele and Doué have been injured and kind of been in and out, so sort of like the excitement of what people were not aware of before. And I think it's maybe just the excitement. The excitement is not as like what PSG is fully healthy
Mm-hmm.
and that they were running through people.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they were still winning games, managing games, but it were more, I guess we'll say, normal way of winning versus, winning 3-0, 4-0, and Dembele making plays that we not necessarily have seen him do in previous years.
A Ballon d'Or year as well. So
Yes.
so
Which is
yeah,
still early. I think it's also early I think in most Europe, it's still early to start jumping the wagon and says who's supposed to be the best player of the year because
honestly,
they
it's
have
it's
not had
anybody.
that much game.
It's still anybody's at least front runner for Ballon d'Or. I think
Yeah.
everybody. If any, to be honest, like maybe you could throw Mbappe into that conversation, but in reality, like with everything that's going on with Real Madrid this season, like maybe that's even a questionable. This because obviously team performance also comes into play for the Ballon d'Or. So Mbappe can score all the goals he wants. I mean, he's incredible at it, but I mean, if it's not reflective for Real Madrid to have any sort of success,
Yeah.
the way at least the way things are looking right now for Real Madrid, it's kind of hard to like put him as the front runner. And so honestly, right now it's still anybody's game. There's no player that's really like popping out on me like Lamine Yamal. Is probably going to be discussed at some point, but he's not necessarily jumping off the screen to you so far. At least in my opinion, this season I could be a
Yeah.
hater.
I think it's just a lot of the bad noise. That's what's mostly happening now. And I think also the World Cup is not helping much of the hype as well. Because this is all we talk about now. And the
Yeah,
AFCON.
yeah. Oh yeah, and then Afcon's gonna happen, which that's gonna hopefully that's gonna boost someone's stock for the Ballon d'Or. At least I would hope
Big
it
time.
would.
Well, that'd be nice.
It would be nice.
Yes. But
It,
I think that's the part where a lot of the players that have kind of come out of their shell or have come back from injuries. And I think that's where the glitz and glamour of what PAG and their run kind of slowed down versus last year where it was just no matter who you are, we'll run through you.
mm-hmm. No, yeah, definitely. But yeah, right now PSG on the table, on top of the table, behind them with 34 points in second place, RC Lens. That is I'm like every year it's always this one team that's just like I'm familiar with them obviously because I do watch Ligue from time to time. I do use Ligue a lot when it comes to EA Sports FC, and it's just interesting because Lens normally you see them kind of as like a mid-table team,
Yep.
kind of flirts with relegation. But here they are having an opportunity. I'm trying to think of the team from last season that had I don't know. I don't believe it. I don't think it was Rennes. But there was another team that was last year that was like, oh look, they're up here on top with the teams in Champions League, or it could be Lens. Oh no, Brest.
That's the one that people were talking about. Yes, because of the special name. But
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. So, but yeah, so it was really interesting to see them. Right now in second with 34 points, they're right behind PSG. So I think that was interesting. Third place, obviously Marseille, rivals to PSG with 29 points. And right
Yeah.
behind them, also with 29 points, fourth place Lille, who's currently in that play-in spot for the Champions League. As you know, and honestly, I think what's really interesting right now for Ligue 1 is maybe not second place. I probably wouldn't say that, but kind of third place all the way down to 10th place. A lot of shifting could happen come the second half of the season because they're all very much within each other.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and if you think about it too, if you watch like if you go 10 or pretty much 9, Strasbourg, which is the Chelsea team that actually they also last year have made a lot of noise, being
that's
in
who I'm
the
thinking
top
of.
10. So it's kind of weird to seeing them playing at that bad. And then if you look, Monaco, who has Pogba and Fetty, those I would have expected them to be a lot closer to the top 5. So that's why you see kind of the that break between 9 and 5, we'll say, because Lyon is also supposed to be a good team. They still have a lot of financial issues, so that's what's keeping them in the middle. But all of those teams are supposed to be Champions League caliber.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why with 9-1, even though PSG has a little bit of gap with Marseille, but other than that, we'll say 9-2 is still for the taking.
Yeah, I really think so. I think that and obviously, unfortunately with teams like Lens, I'm not trying to throw jabs at these guys, but you have a really strong first half of the season, and then kind of that. Unfortunately, as someone that likes Arsenal, starts really hot, really strong, and then just sizzles out in that second half, and there's a lot of costly mistakes where then they're on the outside looking in. And so I hope that doesn't happen with Lens. I hope they can keep this momentum going. Hopefully, maybe in the January transfer window, maybe they add another thing just to push them over the edge for that second half of the season. And this is like where the real strategy comes into play, right? Like this is
Yep.
where those teams were like, shoot, we have something good going. We could get stronger, and then really do something here. I mean, a prime example, PSG. Obviously they're on top of the table last year, but you go and get Kvaratskhelia, and just was a straight home run addition to the team because I think he was very much an important piece to solidify the quadruple that they had last
Oh
year.
yes.
So that's where it comes the January transfer window. I know like as far as MLS people we talk a lot of crap about the January transfer window, but in the European setting, that is such an like pivotal moment, especially if you're that team that's like we're good right now, but we could be so much better. And I hope that that's what happens with Lens. But like I said, Rennes is not that far away from Champions League spot with 27 points in fifth. Lyon, they're also not that far out from it. I mean, the only thing that's hurting them right now is their financial situation,
Yep.
which I still don't know how they got out of it. They were supposed to get relegated last year because they failed to get to that, and then I didn't see any changes that they did besides selling Cherokee. But they're here. They're still here.
Yeah.
They
Yeah,
technically
I have
have
no
Matt
clue.
Turner. You
Oh
technically have
yeah.
Matt.
So where is he now?
Yeah, I don't know. He's not playing right now, but
Ouch.
so I don't know. He should be getting called up, but I guess Leon doesn't really need him. Which was funny because at one point Matt Turner was the only goalkeeper
Yep.
in Leon's roster, and then they're like, you know what? Let's ship him out on loan because we can't afford him. So
Yeah, I'm sure that was the true reason.
yeah, that so like you say ninth, I'll be 10th because 10th has like 22 points, so they're not that like far away from it as well. which that 10th place team is actually
Angers. Yeah.
Angers. Okay, I always say Angers, but I'm glad that you
No,
that
Angers.
that's what helps having you here is because Edward likes to make fun of me butcher these French names, and now I have someone that actually speaks French. But Angers, I'm
Yes.
not now. I'm gonna start using that.
Yeah,
Um,
before you know it, yes.
Before you know it, I'm gonna get back on the Duolingo and and work on my French again because Bossy got excited because I knew how to say orange. So,
Orange? Oh, yeah.
which I was like, oh, that's how you say
It's
it.
orange, yes.
uh, and then on the flip side, the bottom half of the table, you could also argue could have some changes. Maybe not 18th or 17th place. That Metz and Nantes, is it Nantes?
Not.
Nantes.
Yeah.
Those two are they're definitely getting relegated. I don't see anything happen. Which I mean, I guess you could say the same thing for 16 play. Well, maybe jump over current 16 place Auxerre. I would imagine that could maybe be some shifts. But I mean, when you look at 15 to 11 plays, it's 15 points to 19 points right now as far as they have in point total. Like same thing as we said, slip up and next thing you know, you're getting relegated. They're not that far away from the bottom, so that's why I'm saying like the second half, like the bottom half of the table on the other side, it's still anybody's game as far as that relegation zone.
Yeah, I guess amazed because if you watch Metz, Nantes, Auxerre, Le Havre, and Paris FC, which is, well, I won't say Paris FC, but the last four is like historical French soccer teams, which
Mm-hmm.
is kind of weird to see him that much low. And Paris FC, I guess, just came up, so they're just trying to find their footing. So it's good and bad to see teams being so close to each other on the bottom half. But I wouldn't be surprised if Paris FC makes a run to get out of relegation.
Yeah, I think obviously Paris FC a very interesting story. Obviously, their return to. Well, is this a return to the top flight,
Oh
or this is their first
yes, they've been gone. No, no, this is no, they're brand new.
brand new? Yeah.
Yes.
I gotta ask. The fact that you could just walk across the street
Hmm.
to each stadium. Did you at any time where when you lived in Paris, were you ever like, let's just go to this Paris FC game? Like,
No,
no, okay,
no. So here's the fun story of these two teams. So Paris Saint-Germain, PSG have decided that even though they're in the city of Paris, but they are going to represent the city and all of the arrondissement around um, Paris. So they're not just the center of Paris, but they're representing everything that's around it.
hmm
And Paris FC wanted to be the capital team. So that's where it kind of differentiate. That's why their fandom it's very different because one kind of reached out to everybody around the city of Paris and the suburbs and everything else compared to Paris FC was just the city's team.
Oh wow,
That's why it became so much bigger and one to the other.
oh, okay, that's
But
an
then
interesting dynamic.
yes, but then now Paris FC has what the second richest or third richest man because he owns all the Louis Vuitton and
Oh
all that
man,
all
they
that
got
luxury brand
that
is
fashion money.
the same person that owns it. And I wouldn't be surprised if at any time then the floodgates open, which will then make it a very interesting where the two stadiums are right next to each other, billionaires spending money. I'm kind of interested to see what would happen.
Yeah, definitely right. Like I mean, if if Ligue 1's being decided, oh, like Paris between Paris teams, that's
That'd be interesting. That'd be a
a,
good movie.
a home divided in some sense. But
Yeah.
right now, currently the leading goal scorer in Ligue 1 is Mason Greenwood from
Oh
Marseille.
boy. Mm.
Uh, Obviously a very controversial player.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, to say the least. But
You were
you know,
kind.
Marseille did give him a shot. Yeah, I look. I've said a lot of things with Mason Greenwood. I've literally had a whole discussion dedicated to Mason Greenwood. Um, at the end of the day, look, if he's got his redemption, that's all for him. Clearly, he's trying to do his best to move on from it. And you know, he's doing it here with Roberto De Zerbi, of all people, to be managing Marseille. And this Marseille team, I know you don't want to say any nice things about them, but they are kind of entertaining to watch as a team. And obviously, I'm invested personally because of Tim Weah. But
Yeah,
it's been yeah. So Mason Greenwood definitely been a huge benefactor. You have Aubameyang also on the squad here,
he returned home. Yep.
and so it's been really interesting over there with Marseille. Mason Greenwood really a really important piece to that team. It's been very clear. Obviously, they've been trying to make shouts for him to return to the English national team. Don't think that's happening, but
No, he got Jamaica.
yeah, which I'm still waiting for that to happen. I still haven't seen him even go to. I guess he was hoping for the World Cup, for them to be in the World Cup, and then that's when he would make his announcement. But I mean,
And they still have work to do.
yeah, because I don't know how patient Leon Bailey is at this point. I think he might kind of retire from the national team, which would be unfortunate. The leading assist man right now is Vitinha. He has 6 assists so far this season. So yeah, it's a really interesting for the second half. What as far as you Moussa, what are some things that you're looking forward to in the second half of the season for Ligue 1? Like, is there any like storylines that you're very much intrigued going into that second half?
Well, other than PSG, like it's kind of roster coming back to being a little bit more healthy, see what they can do. And of course, there's that continental tournament. I guess that's not many people are talking about. Uh, but I think the biggest story that the whole world is watching is Pogba, coming back and playing. Um, we see that he's doing quite well at this moment, and this is some of the flair that he has. I'm just curious to see how that will help inspire Monaco to the battle to maybe come to second place because I don't want them to be first, of course.
Yeah, I think Monaco is an interesting team to follow. They did go out this summer transfer window, went and got some new additions.
Yeah.
Obviously, Paul Pogba being a very significant signing only for his bounce back. Obviously, all that he had to deal with, the whole
And
doping.
Antifati as well.
Ansu Fati, a player that would really love to have his redemption arc begin, because obviously maybe Barcelona hyped him up a little too early.
Yeah.
But yeah, obviously he would love to get his opportunity to really. I mean, he's had his moments. I've watched a few of Monaco's games. He doesn't. It's not that he's terrible,
Yeah.
by any means, but yeah, I don't know. But Monaco, I mean, with the players that they have, it's gotta start clicking at some point, right?
Yeah, and I think that's just that part. And there's a few Senegalese internationals as well that are doing their thing there. So I think it's just a question of, like you said, clicking
Hmm.
and see what they can do. And what I'm hoping is, in the world of soccer or the Champions League, where there's not just one French team that's doing well. I want to see him kind of compete with the EPL and others. He says, "Hey, we have 3 or 4 teams in the Champions League, and we don't have to be above and beyond excellence to be acknowledged and people recognize that Ligue 1 is actually producing some of the best players in the world that everybody then cherry pick.
Yeah, I kind of hate that's how it was. One, Ligue 1 is in fact a Power Five. It's in the Power Five leagues of Europe. Like, when you talk about like the top leagues in Europe, France is being discussed there. And obviously, I think it's mainly specifically the Prem fans that always want to throw out the Farmers League title onto
Well,
you guys. But I mean, you can't diss a league when so many important players have come out of that league, and that's props to obviously league the one France's development as far as like developing young players. I mean, at one point, League Lyon just kept giving Benzema came out of that. A lot of
Oh,
Algerian based players came out of Lyon at one point. I felt like I was just like, that's like the Renaissance of Algeria, I guess,
yeah.
and which
If
it
you think about it,
it kind of did.
yeah. And if you think about it, if you watch all of the teams that won Champions League in the recent 10 years or won crazy trophy in EPL, there's maybe two or three French players there. Where do you think they come from?
hmm
Real Madrid had a huge run. Who do you think was there? So I think it's nice to see that PSG is getting the recognition, Monaco, Marseille, and all that. But for Ligue 1, what I'm curious to see is if can have three or four teams making those runs, and then people can start realizing that um, without French football, there is probably not even much EPL or much of soccer, I guess. But that's
Uh,
my soapbox.
Also, you could thank Arsene Wenger. So,
Well, yeah, that too. I mean, Arsenal can thank the French coalition for the Invincibles.
yeah, they definitely could. They definitely should.
Yep.
But yeah, I think that you made a good point about Monaco. I think PSG, like, despite the issues that they're having as far as health goes,
Yeah.
still be on top of the table. So that just tells you, like, when this team's healthy, like when they're at their fittest, this team is Vitinha is just gonna get more stats come his way, and I'm sure we'll start seeing some PSG names dropped up on the top goal scorer list as well. So I mean, the second half is gonna be interesting. Is there, as far as a PSG fan, like, is there a player right now that you're kind of like seeing for that January transfer window that you would love to be brought into this PSG team?
Nah, I think nah, I think for PSG they don't have to do much because you don't want to mess up with the chemistry. I think for them mostly is just to bring back their players, the healthy ones, and pretty much it will be a totally different roster. I don't see any players unless the scouts finding someone that's a rough diamond. I don't see anyone that's either in the move or will looking to move that in January.
Mm-hmm.
Because right now, there's knowing that the World Cup is coming soon and all of that. I don't know if there's that many players that will
Want to
big
take that
name
risk?
players that would want to move just now because it could be good or bad, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can have the worst World Cup and then your stock goes down, but you could have the best World Cup and then. So
Completely fair.
I'm curious to see what January is going to look like. I don't think there will be that much movement
I
because
mean,
clubs will
and
want
and
to.
Endrick does seem to be. I believe it's still happening that he's getting loaned out to Lyon.
Yeah,
I,
but you see, as you can see, he's like his stock was already high. It's just dropping down
because he's not playing.
already, and he's not even playing.
Yeah.
So I think for him, it's him. For Henrik, is to go and play for Brazil,
Mm-hmm.
right? He has to justify because right now he's not playing. You're not playing,
Mm-hmm.
but him is like trying to get him out of his bad situation.
Do you see the possibility of Endrick joining that Lyon team? Like, do you see him helping improve Lyon in their current situation? Right now, obviously, sixth place Europa Conference. Can he help at least jump him up a few
He
spots?
could if he comes healthy and in the right mindset, because right now he's been rotting on the bench for too long, and I think it will almost depend up to him. Because if he goes to Lyon and thinks he's the big guy on campus and he's going to start right away, he's gonna have a rude awakening on that part.
That's a very fair point. The kid that just goes to Real Madrid already has a huge New Balance deal.
Yeah, you got everything already and you got dropped. So I don't, unless you go to other leagues that are lower, I don't think in Ligue 1 they'll be like, oh, he's Henrik. We have to, you
Respect him.
know, yeah, no. I mean, you saw what they did to Messi, so
Yeah.
Henrik is nowhere near anything to that stature. So yes.
Definitely, I agree with that one. But yeah, that's League On. It's gonna be really, obviously the first half has been very interesting. Really can't wait to see how the second half is gonna go. Obviously, Musa, thank you for coming on and talking about League On. But this is your time, man. Like, let the people know what's going on. Obviously, you're gonna be I mean, look at your background. You're decked out with Senegal. AFCON is literally well, by the time this episode drops, days away.
Yeah.
So tell all the people that can go find you and see your coverage of AFCON.
Yeah, so it's all on Mo Football TV. I will be recording a live session where we go over the group stage and give our tentative predictions. One was going to be your hard biased one, and the other one will be the unbiased, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But then after that, we'll be covering a lot more of, the games, live watch alongs, interviews, and maybe, Hector will come to one of those shows and talk about what he learned from his dark horse. And I think same, right? World Cup talk, MLS talk, and just youth development. That's pretty much what we'll be doing for the next 12 to 16 months.
Yeah, man, that's gonna be nonstop. This is like your little warm up to the World Cup is covering
Yes.
AFCON, which isn't really a warm up for you because you love AFCON. And I know that's a big event. And once again, we need to do better with covering AFCON, in my opinion. Not just you. I'm saying who someone get the rights to AFCON. Like, can we actually get like a real like dedicated like broadcast crew to get to give this tournament what it really deserves?
Oh,
Uh,
and Morocco is actually pulling up like all the stops. I think this will be the first AFCON where it will be live on 4K HD. Their stadiums, they showed the cameras. They literally pulled every single stop you can think of for it. Yeah, and I think it's just people need to learn what the tournament is. And I think for me, the way also I see it is that whoever wins the AFCON here this time, that means you'll be hot, right? All of the teams at this moment, the European and everybody else, they're going back to their own season. They're all trying to figure out who's going to make it. You will be warmed up already. You've played a actual major tournament before the World Cup.
I mean, while
This
everybody's
is
doing friendlies, while
Yeah,
everyone's
everybody's
doing
doing friendlies, everybody's getting injured, everybody here you have a true tournament that determine who on that team and the roster you have that you are going to take to the World Cup, where
hmm
everybody's assuming you're supposed to be hot, ready, and if you won a major tournament, you should feeling good about yourself to then take on the World Cup. You saw all the teams wanting to play African teams, right? US wants to play Senegal. Argentina reached out to Senegal to do a friendly in March. Um, so they started to figure out that you have to play against those African countries if you want to prepare yourself for the World
it's a
Cup.
different beast, man. It is a different beast when you go up against an African nation. It is pride and just the best athleticism you're ever gonna see. Mix and like I said, the thing I love about AFCON, it takes you back to why you love this game. It is just it's about the fun of it, and I think that's what unfortunately more and more like this it's becoming a business, and it's not a
It is
U.S.
now.
thing. It's not a U.S. thing. It's a football thing. It's becoming a business, and I think AFCON the beauty of it's football at its purest, and I think that's the
Yeah.
best part of it all.
Yeah. So they have to go and make sure to watch it because all of their favorite players in their European teams are playing in the AFCON. And what hey, get yourself ready for the World Cup that will be happening in Morocco as well. So, hey, pick a team, follow them, and you see what happens.
Definitely, man. Make sure you guys go check out Moussa. Obviously, we'll always highlight it on here on the podcast for you guys. But obviously, Moussa is definitely the guy for it, man. And full circle moment, AFCON was definitely what started this friendship. So, Moussa, it's always a pleasure to have you on, man. I can't wait to have you more for in 2026.
Likewise. Thanks for having me.
I love soccer, Peggy.
All right, guys. Thank you to Moussa to help cover me with Ligue 1. Obviously, being that he has a French background, being that he is French, it is definitely helpful to have someone and also to help me properly pronunciate some of the teams in Ligue 1. Unfortunately, this person that's on with me might not be able to help me, at least in this region. But hey, we got Kelcey from High Low Sports, obviously a true favorite of the pod. and our super sub. But Kelcey, it's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while. Been through some live stuff, but hey, we're here. We're at the midway point of the year, so it's been good halfway season. But yeah, I don't know how good I'm going to do on the pronunciations. I'll apologize now for everything I butcher, but who knows? Maybe it's going to get cut into a short or a reel again, and it's going to go crazy because those darn Americans talking about their darn soccer.
I'm getting it right now for the whole Inter Miami, Vancouver recaps. Okay, but all because I used the word outplay.
Oh, how dare you?
How dare I? How dare I say Vancouver had more opportunities to put that game away versus Miami?
How dare you use statistics?
How dare I watch that game? How dare I watch that game?
Oh,
yeah.
But, hey, keyboard warriors are going to keyboard warrior.
Yeah, they are. It's a very entertaining thing. But all right, obviously, as you can tell, if you're watching the video version, the standings is to our side. And if you're also watching the video version, you can see a date right above us that is going to tell you when we recorded this table update, because obviously Bundesliga might be going into a break. I could be wrong. I think that they have matches this weekend, but
yeah, they have matches this weekend and then a break until the 9th.
So because they're not crazy and force their players to play on Christmas. So
right. Look at you, Premier League.
Yeah, I think they're actually the only league that does it. But yeah. So, and I mean, because Liga is also taking a break. Actually, they're going Coupe de France right now. But Bundesliga. So yeah, it's December 16th. That's when we're recording it. So if things change, which they probably will, now this is when we recorded it. Just FYI. But I'm sure people will still complain about it. But. If you guys don't know or aren't familiar with the Bundesliga, it is a 18-team table. Their relegation zone is 18 and 17 automatically getting relegated down to the second division, with that 16th place spot going into a play-in game for who would essentially be playing in the Bundesliga the next season. So at least there's that. And then pretty similar to all the teams, 6th place Europa Conference League, 5th place Europa League. Champions League, 4th all the way to 1st, maybe might change, only depending on the UEFA coefficient. Now, am I expecting the Bundesliga to get that? Unless Bayern Munich and Borussia Dortmund make it to the Champions League semifinals, I don't see it happening, which it did happen once. But as of right now, it seems very favored towards the Premier League. I think as of right now, they do have the higher coefficient. So I am going through the rest of this episode with that bias, thinking that the Premier League is going to get a 5th Champions League spot versus the rest of the league, which I think is a very fair call. But, who am I?
Yeah, it makes sense. Like, hey, you know what? Why not?
Yeah. So we'll start things off with, obviously, we'll go down to the relegation. The guys are currently in that relegation zone, which in 18th place we have Mainz, my favorite team to pronounce, which unfortunately they are currently at the bottom with 7 points. They have to have had a win. They had 1 win, 4 draws, and 9 losses, with a goal differential of -13.
Which, in the grand scheme of it, is not as terrible as some of the teams above them.
Yeah, I mean, because there's teams that have actually given up more goals than Mainz.
Only one team's given up more goals than Mainz, but at least they've scored 13 to match it.
Which is the team that's above them, which is Heidenheim. With 11 points, so currently at 17th place. And then that 16th place position, also with 11 points. I believe they're up because of goal difference. Yeah, goal difference is probably the real reason why they're above them. Yeah. And that is St. Pauli, which I don't remember. No, St. Pauli came up last year, but obviously, their manager goes and takes the Brighton job. I mean, they stayed afloat for a year in the Bundesliga. They're still in play to be in the Bundesliga. They do have 11 points, so I should point at least that out. I'll say this, Kelcey. I think everybody still, besides Mainz, is still very much in play.
Yeah, I mean, you could honestly even say Mainz is still has a chance. It's an outside shot. I think their goal differential is obviously what's going to give them an opportunity. If they can get to a situation where they're fighting with a team that's in 16th with a equal or lesser goal differential, they have a chance. But yeah, Heidenheim still has every opportunity to fight its way out of there. FC St. Pauli sitting in that uncomfortable position of the last man standing / potentially first man out if you're not too careful. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting run down the way. Whether Mainz can fight their way back, but Heidenheim seems to have a great opportunity to get their way out. It's just Mainz they got to get a couple lucky wins or draws, which seems mean to say in professional football. Like, yeah, you got to get a couple lucky wins, but when you got 7 points halfway through the season,
careful with that word "lucky" because apparently that offends a lot of people.
Hey, you got to be good to be lucky, is all I got to say. So
so that's all. So apparently it's a cringy word, lucky. But no, you're absolutely right. I think a lot of teams are still very much in play, and I'll probably say more towards that. You'll be nice and say Mainz. Now, if you're Mainz, at least you're not Wolves, who only has 2 points right now.
Yeah.
So at least there's that.
There's a fighting chance.
Yeah, because I mean, Wolves is definitely going to the championship. But when you look at like 17th to 8th, like there is like still like within grasp reach between all each other. And yes, I will say Mainz is still only 4 points behind Heidenheim, so that is fair. I would also point out, like I on my notes, 24th place Eintracht Frankfurt with 24 points. They're very much in. I would say, if bearing it, nothing bad happens, could actually get themselves in a better spot. Which, to be fair, man, you end up losing Ekite.
Mm-hmm.
You lose out on him. Obviously, promising French striker.
Fantastic striker.
Fantastic striker. Now at Liverpool. It's like, but who's to say if that team, especially, and you're gonna hear the theme of this episode is just. Come that January transfer window, do you go out there where you're Frankfurt, where like, hey, we're not looking too bad. The teams above us, I think you can say, hey, we're not that far off from them. We can jump over these teams, and who's to say we can't get a spot at the Champions League?
Yeah, you know what? It's very clear. Like there's a very clear line in the Bundesliga table where it's like you have a chance to fight your way into play-in positions, like in a Europa League or a Conference League position, and it is Eintracht Frankfurt. Like it's very clear that's the line. Ironically, 0 goal differential is the line.
Yeah,
but yeah, like a team like that is very interesting. Obviously, they have the second highest goal scorer. Nobody's touching Harry Kane right now, but in Jonathan Burkhart is absolutely fantastic, and also the number 2 guy in assists so far in the league. And so they have to be careful for 2 things. Like, do you go out and get somebody, but also can you fight off the bigger teams from coming and pulling your players away? Because it happens all the time. Like, how many years did we see Dortmund give away their best player to somebody else? It just happens constantly. Obviously, the big ones were always like Lewandowski at the end of the year, things like that. But in the middle of the year, it always happens to these like 7, 8, 9 teams. So even down to Freiburg, really, that you got to be careful if you are fighting for a chance. I think, and by the way, I think that's as low as I would go for fighting for a chance for getting into the 6th place spot is Freiburg. And that's just like, again, you got to get a couple lucky wins in there and a couple lucky losses for Stuttgart and everybody in front of you. But I think you just got to be careful with those teams. Like, you can't lose anybody if you're going to go for it. But at the same time, you do have to figure out maybe bringing somebody back from loan, because some of these teams have some great players on loan. Or maybe not great players, but really good young players. And they could develop in the first team football playing for a position. And I think those are important things too. Is like, you can't just lose somebody in the January transfer window. If you're in that 6 through 8 spot, 9 spot in the Bundesliga, you got to be very careful.
Mm-hmm. And the reason why I highlight Eintracht Frankfurt, because you did mention the 0 goal differential that they have, because everybody else, it's straight negative from there on out.
Yeah.
Which, if anybody's trying to defend the Bundesliga, this is definitely not the best time to be defending them.
No.
But if you're Eintracht Frankfurt, I mean, you clearly can score goals. Clearly.
Yeah.
It's that defense. I think if they're able to bring in some defensive pieces that can come and solidify that back line a little bit more, help that goalkeeper out just a little bit, where you can turn out some games a little bit better, especially with the way they're scoring goals, like you mentioned. So I think that's, to me, Eintracht Frankfurt is an interesting team to keep an eye on, especially in that January transfer window. Hopefully they don't lose their goal scorer, but if they can add some defensive pieces to that team and hopefully keep their goal scorer, I think that Eintracht Frankfurt could very much get into a European competition spot by the end of the season.
Yeah, for sure. And by the way, Michy Batshuayi, the Belgian striker, who's pretty much always been behind Lukaku. Yeah, he is also on that squad. But yeah, I think this team is interesting. Also, Mario Götze, who we all know for, things, are sitting on this team. But yeah, I do think getting some help in there in the defense. Obviously, you have a great midfielder in Xavi, and you got a young guy in Larson that are able to excel in the Bundesliga. But you got to get somebody to help. And they got a lot of young defenders, but they also have some old guys that are like still sticking around in the team. And it might be that time that you start talking in January and February, like maybe we get some new blood in on loan or in the transfer window that just somebody's going to fill in a spot, because there's definitely holes there that can be filled.
I mean, I'm just saying Sergio Ramos is looking for a team in Europe.
Oh. I mean, hey, if you don't mind red cards, which to be honest, Eintracht Frankfurt also leads the league in yellow cards, at least for one single player. So
hey, competition.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Eintracht Frankfurt, I will say keep a close eye on. We do have VfB Stuttgart, who I think throughout at least recently, have been getting better and better. Maybe a little bit of a dip this season, but obviously we still have another second half to go. But Stuttgart, obviously keep an eye on them in Europa Conference League spot, 25 points. In the Europa League spot, we got Hoffenheim with 26 points. And in fourth place Champions League spot, we got Bayer Leverkusen with 26 points. So that just tells you things can change.
Yeah.
Within Eintracht Frankfurt is within 2 points of that fourth and final spot for the Champions League.
Yeah. It doesn't take much. Honestly, even if you go down to Union Berlin having a chance, you're talking about 8 points between, fourth and eighth place. Like, a lot can change in 3 weeks, or really in 2 weeks in the middle of the schedule in March. Like, something happens, you're still within that 8-point gap. You get 2 wins, the opposing team loses 2. Well, now you just got to go get another win and you're on top. Like, it is crazy to see that things can flip and they end up like in the Bundesliga. This is one of the weird things about it, is that after January transfer window, that February through early April time frame, things get wild. And I'm not talking the top 3 at this point in time. I think the top 2, 3 are pretty comfortable up there. I don't think they're going away, barring somebody leaving. But it does feel like to get that fourth place spot, you have to have a very, very fast start after the Christmas break. Mm-hmm. You can't come off slow. It can't be draw. You have to win. It has to be early wins, and you can't just give up goals. Those are huge, huge backbreakers. Even if you go against Bayern at this point in time, I know you're going to give up a goal. You can't give up multiple goals.
Yeah, I think you made a good point, because I think you have to. You don't want that return leg to be an important match, especially when you're talking about the 3 teams up top. Which I'll just go ahead and mention. Third place, Borussia Dortmund with 29 points. Second place, RB Leipzig with 29 points as well. And in first place, 9 points clear from second place is Bayern Munich. Which, look, I said it. Like we all said it. Like it took yes, Xabi Alonso's Bayer Leverkusen team finally ended the streak for Bayern Munich, but also remember it took an undefeated Bayer Leverkusen to finally dethrone Bayern Munich, a Bayern Munich team that scored more points than they did the previous season. So, like, Bayern Munich is always going to be good, and they just got so much better, which is crazy when you lose a Jamal Musiala. But then now this new kid that's now wearing 42, because obviously Jamal is wearing now number 10. But the new 42, he's looked pretty good. Definitely living up. Harry Kane, I mean, the way he's looking, it looks like Barcelona might be coming and knocking for him, which I hope not. Olise, just another stellar player that left Crystal Palace and making a name for himself over there in Bayern Munich. This Bayern Munich team, I mean, do I want to give credit to Vincent Kompany? Not really. I mean, he's a good coach. I'm not taking that away from him, but it's also Bayern Munich. So that's the only thing I want to take away from it. Look,
you put anybody in the seat of a Ferrari, they can still drive 110 miles per hour, or for I don't know what the kilometers per hour is for all you non-Americans. Sorry. But yeah, like I'm not going to give all the credit to company, but I will say that this team has been put together well. Obviously, the Mane situation in Bayern didn't work out. They replaced him with Luis Diaz, which is a great switch, by the way. Third in assists in the Bundesliga. Elise, as you mentioned, number 1 in assists in the Bundesliga.
I mean,
and Harry Kane, by the way. I was like, you have Harry Kane, just 18 goals through his first half of the season with still 1 game left to play in this like the first half of the season. Like, that's crazy. I'll give the guy 1 trophy, and then all of a sudden, look what happens. He just doesn't stop scoring. On pace, I believe, to break the record if he continues through the rest of the season for goals in the Bundesliga. I think it is 38, 39. But yeah, and you said Leonard Carl wearing the new number 42, right?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely does look very fitting in this team. This whole squad, it seems like, has figured themselves out for what they want to do. Davies, everybody else being here, Min-Jae Kim, like Jonathan Tah. It's been a great situation for company to coach, for managing. But yeah, when you're already driving a Ferrari, it doesn't take much other than a fine tuning to get it to go even faster. And it feels like this team is nigh unbeatable in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, Bayern Munich shouldn't be resting on their laurels, but you should point out, with 2 games left in Champions League, they're currently sitting at second place on the table over there in Bayern Munich. I mean, yeah, I think obviously they're gonna still focus on the Bundesliga, make sure to win the Bundesliga DFB Pokal when that comes around. But a trophy they haven't won since COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And Harry Kane was close to winning a Champions League. Not really, but he wanted. He walked by the trophy of the Champions League. I think with the way this Bayern Munich team, this team is not only just poised to win the Bundesliga, maybe even DFB Pokal, which can always be finicky depending on who you face up on that day. But if they keep playing the way they're playing, man, I can see them also contesting for that Champions League.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's no doubt in my mind, especially with the new league table set up in the Champions League. This team is so good. And by the way, I was wrong. It was 41 goals in the season, by the way, for Lewandowski. So a little off pace for Harry Kane, but he still has a chance. And it's not like you talk about a player like Harry Kane, you're not talking just a pure goal scorer. And you've seen that more in the Champions League than anything. You see him drop into a reserve 9, as false 9 in a lot of cases, playing from the midfield, playing balls out to Elise and everything, and then ending up on the end of the ball in the box. And so it's been a situation where this team runs well, and it does run through Kane. But when you talk about getting in the Champions League, it's going to take a heroic level from Harry Kane to stabilize this team at number 2. And it doesn't matter. Honestly, we saw it last year, right? Number 1 doesn't matter anything. Number 2 might not even matter as well, depending on who you go up against.
I mean, 24th.
Yeah. You just got to get in at the end of the day. It's no different than when it was group stages. You just had to get to the next round. And that's the end goal. Last year we saw it was like a lull that they had, and it just killed the top teams. This year, everybody's realized what a league table looks like. And now as American fans, we've seen this exact setup before. So this is not a shock to us for teams to have a break and then come off on a lull and things like that. But for European fans, that's never anything they've experienced. So now they know it. Now the teams know it. Now squads know what to expect. And this team it's going to be tough. Like in the world, in all of European football, it is hard to look at any of the other top teams and say, hey, that team's way better than Bayern. There's a couple that you're going to be like, yeah, okay, they're even, or maybe close to. But Bayern just feels so solid this year outside of everything else. And again, it kind of comes to playing in a cupcake division, right? Like, apologies to Bundesliga fans. But in comparison to some of the other leagues right now, after your top 8, it's not great in a lot of cases. And yes, I'm saying that knowing there's a lot of Americans that play in the Bundesliga. It's something that you got to be careful of when they get in the Champions League. Like, maybe let's not give them too big of a head yet. Vincent Kompany's already got enough of that big head covered. But yeah, it'll be exciting to see what they can do, but I don't see them falling out of the number 2 spot in the Champions League table. Obviously, that's all pretty well set now at this point in time. But yeah, once you get through that, now you got to get through the knockouts, and that's just the most important thing for this team because they got to win it. It's been 6 years now.
Yeah. No, yeah, definitely. And I think to point out, like, kind of going towards another team, because I think you hit it right in the nail right on the coffin for Bayern Munich. Bayer Leverkusen. If you're a club that was thinking about firing their coach very early on after hiring him, this is your proof that maybe it's the best move to do, because you hire Erik ten Hag. You had some red flags happening. You lost to a youth team from Flamengo, I believe, and then as a preseason game, and then you go into a really rough start under the Ten Hag era, and they said, "F it, let's just cut our ties with him," and look where they are now. They're in fourth place, and maybe some are wondering, maybe if they would have had the guy that they have on now, where this team could have probably been maybe in a better position. Obviously, this is a response after moving on from Xabi Alonso, Florian Wirtz, Frimpong. I don't think, is it Alex Frimpong?
I think Alex Frimpong, yeah.
Yeah, so Frimpong, too many players to count that you lost, but you still have a core of players. Malik Tillman is on there, which I'm excited for. But yeah, this Leverkusen team, even though they have been stripped, which I think it's just another year for Leverkusen. They're a team that definitely gets poached a lot from across the world of football. But I mean, once again, they're competing and hoping that they can maybe get that Champions League spot. But obviously, definitely a bit of a rough start to their season. So that probably could be something that they could worry about, going near the end of the season.
Yeah, you always worry about that, right? Like, when is a good time to fire a coach? Is there ever a good time to fire a coach? And you'll never know the answer until your players react. And I will say, there's been some question marks about players coming off of that squad. Obviously, one of them being Florian Wirtz. You talk about what he's been doing at Liverpool. It hasn't been great in the grand scheme of things. He's been blasted by Liverpool fans. So it's not like it's just a managerial situation there. It was a lot of the players as well. And you always question, like, is it a good time to get rid of them? Obviously they did, and it's worked out, but it doesn't always end up that way. It's a 50-50 coin flip, right? At the end of the day. Mm-hmm. It's a good thing it's worked out, though, because it is a team that's, they've turned themselves into, I hate using this term, but it's kind of what they are in the Bundesliga. They're a feeder team in a lot of cases, but they're a good, solid feeder team. They're not just giving players up. They're a lot like how Werder Bremen used to be in the early 2000s, where they were a really good squad, but maybe not the best in the Bundesliga, but they are still a really fun team to watch. And this is how it feels for Leverkusen, where maybe they can, fight their way to stay up in that four spot, but it's going to be a tough fight. Like, it's not just like, good luck, you got this. It's more like, yeah, sure. Good luck. You got to make some moves, right? I said the same thing about 6 through 8. You got to make moves in the January transfer window. Maybe go poach a player that's playing well within the Bundesliga who's not on a top 6 team. See what you can do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And I think if you're Borussia Dortmund, you definitely want to boost up that attack, because I think that's really what's kind of hurting them right now. Defensively, great, amazing, solid. But yeah, maybe you go to Eintracht Frankfurt and poach their guy. I mean, like, this is, Borussia Dortmund needs to definitely take a big step. RB Leipzig, really good on the attack. I mean, it's hard to say, like, good on the attack when you have Bayern Munich with 51 goals already.
Yeah.
But, I mean, if you had to pick a team, these teams need to strengthen up, because if you want to go into that second half of the season and somehow find a way to cut into that 9-point deficit that you have with Bayern Munich, because I'll be honest with you, Bayern Munich is going to have a slip-up. Not a big one, but they'll have a slip-up enough where you could probably say, hey, our return fixture against you could be a really big one if we're able to capitalize on it. But, I mean, at the end of the day, it's Bayern Munich. They're inevitable. I will also point out, Borussia Mönchengladbach, kind of a similar situation to Bayer Leverkusen. Not really, but they were struggling to get a victory for a good chunk of the early on in the season. Obviously, you have Gio Reyna, Joe Scally. A lot of people were kind of, I guess, justifying why Joe Scally wasn't getting called up, because he was part of a team that can't even get a win. At least playing, even though he is playing regularly, they're not winning. I mean, that's the last thing last thing you want is a defensive player that can't win you games. And then Gio Reyna, it seems like another day of different team, same situation where he's available but he doesn't play. But you put that USA jersey on him, and all of a sudden he's phenomenal. In some sense, he is our own James Rodriguez, but not saying that he is James Rodriguez. I'm saying in retrospect, obviously no one's James Rodriguez, at least for Colombia.
It does. Mönchengladbach is always an interesting story because you always wonder what it's going to take to get a team going. And you don't ever really know what the catalyst is going to be. It's kind of like we just talked about with Leverkusen. You don't know what the catalyst is going to look like, and it's turned out well so far for them. They still have it's again, this is an outside shot to get into a Conference League play-in situation, but you do have a very outside shot to fight there. But you also just have as equally of bad chances of crashing out with the way they've been playing. So, they 3-0'd Heidenheim this last Thanksgiving weekend, so that was a huge win. But it's not been like you lose to St. Pauli in the Pokal, you win 1-0 to Mainz, barely sneaking by. You lose to Wolfsburg in your last match. You got Dortmund coming up. Like, it's not a great situation for them trying to stay up. But they're in that middle of the table that you just question it. But yeah, when you're talking to American players on the team like Joe Scally and Gio, it's tough to say they deserve the time in the U.S. camp when the players in front of them are winning. Lee Tillman being one of those players in front of Gio in this case. And then Joe Scally, there's players you needed to figure out, like Alex Freeman in the American squad that was playing regularly and playing well. That's why you got the nod over Joe Scally. I don't know. I question whether he'll be there in the final call-ins, but I feel like he'll be in the final camp before they make the decisions for sure. Both guys will. It just feels like too much talent not to. But yeah, there's always a question mark. And it also depends on, hey, where does Mönchengladbach end up at the end of the season, right? But yeah, they're in a weird spot where they can go one way or the other. -4 goal differential. You got a lot of upside to that. You also have a lot of downside to that. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. But I mean, right now, in like you mentioned, like scoring, I think obviously Harry Kane is the front runner when it comes to goal scoring. Believe, yeah, Harry Kane 18 goals. Yeah, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
And then on the assist count, I mean, yeah, Michael Olise. I mean, you already mentioned it. I will say if you're an Eintracht Frankfurt fan, to see like at least like two players. Actually, technically, if you want to point out Duan as well. So you got some players in leading statistics, especially with goals and assists. Just fix that defense. That's all you. Yeah.
Just get your defense fixed at this point in time. You'll be fine.
Hey guys, this is Hector from the Insert Name FC podcast, here to tell you guys about Canadips. It is a great tasting, superior alternative to traditional dip using CBD in a way that is radical, enjoyable, and effective. It comes in 5 core flavors: wintergreen, mint, citrus, mango, and American spice. Canadips CBD is the new evolution in dip, allowing guys to enjoy great, long-lasting taste without the downsides. If you guys want to go ahead and try them out, use the code BELLYUP20 at CanadipCBD.com. Once again, BELLYUP20 at CanadipCBD.com, and you'll get yourself 20% off your purchase. Thank you again for Canadips for being a great partner of Belly Up Sports. Yeah, I will say Eintracht Frankfurt, I think that's my team that I'm going to be like, this team could jump up if they can get something helpful in that January transfer window. Also, don't lose your guys. What is it? Burkhardt.
Yeah.
Don't lose him, and I think you'll be fine. But if you're Borussia Dortmund, go get Burkhardt.
yeah, go get some goal scorers. Go get Schiabi and Burkhardt at the same time. Just get a goal scorer and assist. You'll be fine. Yeah, I'm with you. I think Eintracht is kind of the team to watch for jumping. But just to be different, I'm just going to say that it could possibly be Freiburg. I do think Freiburg has a chance. Sitting at a -2 goal differential at 9th place and 17 points, it doesn't take much to jump those 8-point difference. We just talked about that. And maybe even to get higher than that, it's not much further to go another 3 points after you make the 8 points. Like, you just got to get to 12 and you're fine. So it's 4 games. It's the biggest difference there. But a team like Freiburg is always a sneaky good team. When you playing well, you also have a lot of draws. You have 4 wins. You haven't lost a lot around compared to teams around you, so you have that chance to really climb. And their losses, 2 of the losses came in the last 3 games. So they have every chance to climb, just to be a little different than saying Frankfurt again. But yeah, I agree with you, everything you said about Frankfurt. But then you had Freiburg, and there's a chance. It's an outside shot, but hey, we like long shots here.
I will also add for the January transfer window, and I'll use Borussia Dortmund just because I would love to see them maybe contest with Bayern Munich. I don't know if that's going to happen, at least the way that things going right now. Anything can happen. Anything's possible. But if you're Borussia Dortmund, honestly, if you're any team that's in need of attacking help, call Atletico Madrid. Go get Sorloth.
Yes.
That dude is just on the bench for no apparent reason. That guy is a set piece threat. I think that this guy, if you're Borussia Dortmund, especially with the wing play that they have, go get Sorloth. Yeah. Go bring Sorloth to Borussia Dortmund. I think that's going to be my pick for maybe if you're going to try to grab somebody in January. I think it should be Sorloth.
Yeah, he's such a good player. If anybody who's played FIFA and you play Ultimate Team, you know the dreaded moment where your opponent brings on Alexander Sorloth in the 75th minute and he's all super subbing on you because they treat him like they treat Haaland. And then you watch him play on the field and you're like, wow, this guy is actually surprisingly good. And if it wasn't for Erling Haaland, he probably has a much more noticeable career with the Norwegian national team. He is a very impressive player to be sitting on the bench, but I also understand why teams don't use him often, because he is a true number 9, the likes we don't see anymore. He is very much a put the ball to his feet, let him hold up play, get around him type of player, and that doesn't always work for every squad. It didn't work for Man United when he was there, and honestly, it doesn't really work for Atletico at this point in time, but he's not bad when they bring him on. Like, he's honestly impressive every single time they bring him on. And it's like, all right, well, here we go.
Yeah, and I think Sorloth is a good one to mention just because of his current situation with Atletico Madrid. And I think he'd be a great Bundesliga addition. I think he'd be very fitting to the Bundesliga, especially the way you can score goals.
That's where he made his name, was with Leipzig.
Mm-hmm. So I think if you're Dortmund, go after it. And I mean, if you're Leipzig, a little reunion wouldn't hurt either. If you're Frankfurt, you need to go get defensive players. But yeah, anything else you want to add about the Bundesliga before we wrap it up?
No, I mean, it is what we expected, right? At the end of the day, you expected Bayern to be at top. I think the biggest question is always going to be Dortmund. Where can they finish at the end of the day? And let's not forget, Hoffenheim still sneaks their way up there every year into the top 6. It's like talk about inevitable. They're just inevitably in the top 6 every year.
They're always the team that beats Bayern Munich.
Yeah, you know what? It's going to be Hoffenheim, or it's going to be like they're going to lose to like Union Berlin or something. It's always their like Achilles heel is the team that's fighting for whatever reason they're fighting. It's useless most times in the grand scheme of it, and Bayern just slips up, and it's usually March. They always will slip up for a week where it's like they lose one on Sunday, lose one midweek, and they draw the last one on the next Sunday, and you're like, what are we doing here?
And then they win the Bundesliga in April.
yeah, and then they go rattle off 4 more wins and win everything.
It's very on brand, the Bundesliga. Hopefully, there'll be a day where it's not always like that, but it's probably going to be like that for a while. But yeah. So that is the Bundesliga. This isn't the last time you're going to see Kelcey, so we're not going to have him do his whole sign-off just yet, guys, because we are going to segue into the Serie A.
Anything's possible. Anything's possible!
All right. Hey, look, Kelcey's here.
Hey. Surprise.
Obviously, we got to talk about the Bundesliga. I will reiterate it once again. If you guys are watching the video version, the date's up there. It's December 16th. I'm going to reiterate it again, and also now the audio version knows it's December 16th. If the table has changed at any time, which at least for this episode of recording, I doubt that it will, but maybe if you watch it next week, maybe the table does change. If that happens, now you know December 16th is when we talked about it. The table's right there from December 16th. Don't flip out. Don't flip out. you're going to flip out. But don't flip out. But all right, Serie A, and I'm going to be honest with you. If you haven't been watching Serie A, if you haven't even been keeping up with Serie A, this is, in my opinion, probably the best league right now. It has been tight, drama. The first place position changes feels like every week. There's a new first place team. It is, as someone that I'm not gonna say that I'm a fan of any of the clubs in Serie A. I try to just be a fan generally of the league here, but it does bring me back to the good old days of the Serie A where it literally was them killing each other. So there's that.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad you said it that way because that was going to be my joke is, hey, look, it's Milan on top. And I'm just going to let somebody pick which Milan it is because that's how it feels right now. This feels like the inner AC back and forth we used to have pre-match fixing, for all those who are old enough to remember those days where you had Roma, you had Napoli, you have Juventus, you have Bologna. Back in the day, it was Fiorentina was up there. It's always fun to watch this league when things are rolling for the league. It's always fun to see what can happen. People forget that a lot of great players start their football in the Italian league in the Serie A. So you get a lot of mix of young players, people in their prime, and some older players just kind of being the team leader. And you get them, and it's all different nations, and it's always been this way. I mean, do you think of the greatest Americans in history, Alexi Lawless being one of them? He played in the Italian league, so it's usually for Americans, it's like it's a league we should have watched at some point in time if we've ever watched European football before, Goal TV became a thing.
Can't forget about Michael Bradley.
Yeah.
His one season with Roma before going to Toronto, and now is the manager for Red Bull New York.
Yeah, there you go. But yeah, no, I love when Serie A is like this. It's so much fun.
Yeah, I think the Serie A has gone through such a dark age. Like when it was just like, oh, here goes Juventus wins it again. Like, I mean, it really was that point where, almost as bad as the Bundesliga. And now I think they're back in their rightful place, I think, as the third best league, in my opinion, when it comes to the European leagues. It could be argued, maybe someone says Bundesliga, but I mean, the way that this league's been playing now, I think we can definitely argue that the Bundesliga is definitely the third best league. I'm biased, I know, La Liga, but
I'll never put La Liga up there just for obvious reasons of like I don't like leagues that only have 4 teams.
That's fair.
But
the Bundesliga has
I need more.
one team.
Exactly. I put La Liga and the Bundesliga at the same spot at comfortably at 2 or 3. I guess is a good place. I think Serie A has a very good argument for being the number 1 league. I think depth wise, you do have to have that conversation about the Premier League, but up until the top 8 are, really marked off. They're pretty even. If not the top teams in the Serie A being better than top teams in the Premier League. So, yeah, it's interesting to see. Obviously, don't go by the Champions League standings. Don't blast me for that. But
I will say that this one is probably more not last place, but everybody else, I think who knows how this table is going to finish by the end of the season because in some weird way, because they've literally been beating the crap out of each other.
Yeah.
For all we know, Juventus could still find their way winning this league. Just the way how crazy this season has been going. But we'll start at the bottom and then we'll work our way to the top. In the relegation zone, here, obviously, it's in the rest of the leagues now because, you guys just listen to Liga and you listen to Bundesliga. There's no play in here. It is literally 20th to 18th place gets relegated immediately down to the second division. And yeah. And like I said,
in Serie B.
But it is still the European competition spots are still the same. 6th place is the Europa Conference League. 5th place is the Europa League. 4th all the way to 1st will get those Champions League spots unless the UEFA coefficient favors the Serie A. This season. If that does happen, then they would get the additional spot. But as I'm going through the recording, I'm going in with the assumption that it's going to be the Premier League.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's a crazy assumption to have. I'm sure there's a lot of Prem fans that wouldn't disagree that, yeah, that's fair. But I'm sure there's somebody. I can never please everybody. But in the 20th position in is Fiorentina with 6 points. Fiorentina, I'm just so disappointed. As great as they were, getting better and better each season. I don't know what happened this time around, but they haven't gotten a win. Not one victory, 6 draws, 9 losses, 12 goals scored, 26 goals allowed with a negative 14 goal differential, which is right now the worst in the league. They're just not performing.
Yeah. That's it. The nicest thing you've ever said about a team that has 0 wins. just want you to know that. They have cool jerseys, though, at least.
At least you're not Wolves. There you go. There you go. At least you're not Wolves. Wolves has 2 points right now. So.
Yeah, no, this team is just not good, honestly. They're a team that's playing within a Dzeko that is old, and honestly, he's not the Eden Dzeko we once remember. They're playing with Albert Goodmanson, who is, again, not the Albert Goodmanson who was a World Cup darling or Euro darling a few years ago. It's a very old team who's not in a lot of great positions for going forward. You hope the best that they can fight their way out of this, but man, no wins through half a season is not great, especially this is one of those leagues that doesn't give you a Christmas break. So it's not like you get a break to regain yourself. You're just going straight through.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it'll be that's a tough break for them. And I literally was just talking about how the great old times had Fiorentina in the top 6.
Yeah.
Sorry. Now you got 6 points.
It's not the same, but you're different. But yeah, I get it. 19th place, you have Pisa with 10 points, which I believe they just got promoted this season. So it happens. 18th place, Hellas Verona with 12 points, which is a team that has been having a lot of struggles over the years. They did just have a new owner. It was these owners from Austin, Texas, of all places. So Hellas Verona also have been dealing with their struggles. Now, I did mention that this league is very much still in play because it still is. I think when you look at positions like 19 to 13, all within grasp of each other.
Yeah.
But I will highlight one team that I would say don't be surprised if they have a big slip up and we see them maybe not in the relegation zone, but definitely not in their current position, which is in 10th place, Udinese with 21 points. And the reason why I'm highlighting them is, yes, 6 wins, 3 draws, 6 losses, 16 goals scored, 22 goals allowed, a negative 5 goal differential. Have games gone in their favor? Probably, but if you're giving up goals like that, they're also the thing that's like, the old Sesame Street, one of these kids are not like the others. When you look at everything on the upper half of the table, they're the only team with a negative goal differential.
Yeah.
So that's to me the team that I wouldn't be surprised if they slip up.
They're the team that can beat up on the little kids, but when it comes to playing the big dogs, good luck. I mean, it's pretty much 3-0, 3 goals against Milan, 3 goals against Inter, 3 goals against Sassuolo. Udinese and Cagliari tied. They drew with Cremonese, who's below them. Juventus scores 3 on them. Roma scores 2 on them. Like, that's a team for sure that is made for a slip up without a doubt. And it's not like, you can't be fixed, but usually if defensive woes are your problem through half of the season, it's going to continue for the second half of the season, and your offense better get really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they are the team that slips up for sure. But I think you're right. I think there's a very great possibility they're going to be maybe not in the relegation zone, but they're going to be awfully close.
And then on that 9, and then I'll mention 9th to 5th, I see as they're still in play. And now the team that I'm going to highlight that isn't in that realm, maybe there's some bias, maybe, but 12th place Atalanta. 12th place Atalanta right now defensively needs work. But they have scored 19 goals so far this season, which is which, by the way, fired the manager they had at the time. Just another early firing. They bring in I forgot his name, but he previously managed Fiorentina, which was a really good year for Fiorentina, which I believe that's the one that they made it to the final of one of the Europa Conference Leagues, I believe. Which I think that's the Real Betis one.
I believe so.
Yeah. So, yeah, the semifinal, Real Betis. Yeah, they played against Real Betis in the semifinal because Real Betis got shellacked by Chelsea last year. So he comes in, takes over with Atalanta, and I think that you're starting to see the improvement for them in that part because it's been really rough for Atalanta, especially a team that honestly their biggest loss was losing Gasperini.
Mm-hmm.
Biggest loss for them was losing Gasperini, which is Roma's gain because of where they are right now on the table. But I think Gasperini. Or did I say Rene? Gasperini. Yeah, that's what
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, but Atalanta, I think, is a team that I think they're gonna improve. I think maybe they go after some players more so on the defensive side to help them push through because I think they have a lot of good players on that team, a lot of Serie A proven players that I just don't see this team not slipping. Now I'm not saying they're going to get into the Champions League, but I'm saying I think they're going to get better.
Yeah, that's fair. I definitely see them fighting for like a top 10 finish. Doesn't seem like it's too far off. I'd say them and for me, Cremonese are the two teams because if you look at the Cremonese squad, Jamie Vardy of all people is sitting there. Also, I thought it was really cool going through it. The goalkeeper is Indonesian, which you don't often see Indonesian national players anywhere in pro football, especially at top levels for teams that are not, fighting relegation. So very interesting to see. But when you talk about head-to-head situations, they've drawn with Atalanta, Cremonese, and Atalanta drew 1-1. And when you talk about going up against the big dogs, like Como, they drew with Como. They drew with Cremonese, who's just ahead of them. They beat Genoa, who's way below them. Unfortunately, they did lose to Pisa recently, so that's always tough. But, they're showing fight. They beat Bologna. It's a team that shows fight and can win some games that they shouldn't win. So for me, I think Atalanta is a great call out. I think Cremonese also has a great shot of climbing those ranks, getting inside top 8 potentially. Again, not fighting for anything meaningful potentially, but anybody can slip, so you never know. But I think those two teams for sure have a great shout for climbing further up the table.
Yeah, those are some good, especially with Cremonese because they have 18 goals given up. So
yeah.
Also, come that January transfer window, find some improvements to that team, and we'll see what happens, man. I shit a lot. Sorry for cussing Kelcey. I always shit on. It's always great when Kelcey's on here to do this bit, but MLS, I do complain about the January transfer window because obviously it's just harder to bring guys into a new season when they're in the middle of their season. But it's different in Europe because of the fact that that's why you have the January transfer window. It is to go in and a simple reload. Sometimes you think you got it all right. Maybe you're just missing that one piece. Yes, are they going to be more expensive? Yeah, because obviously you're trying to take a player away from a team that's in their middle of their season. So It makes a lot of sense. But that's when that and January is never usually a crazy busy transfer window. But when they do get those January transfer window signings, it is there because they're brought in for a reason. Do they always pan out? Absolutely not. But there, especially with the Serie A, I think anything much is possible. But going into that, in that 6th place spot for the Europa Conference League, we have in 6th place Bologna with 25 points. I hope I pronounced that right.
We'll give you that one.
Look at me. In 5th place, we got Juventus with 26 points in 5th place. Now, the Champions League spots, 4th place, AS Roma with 30 points. Pay attention to the point count, by the way, guys. 3rd place, Napoli with 31 points. 2nd place, AC Milan with 32 points. And in 1st place, Inter Milan with 33 points. It's anybody's game. It's anybody's game this is the Royal Rumble. Is basically what the Serie A is.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, I jokingly said pick Milan, but it really has been the last couple of weeks where especially if one plays Saturday, one plays Sunday, it's like, good luck. One's going to win one day, the next is going to win the next day.
See,
and if
be grateful that I'm not recording this on Saturday. I waited till freaking Tuesday to do the recording.
If Milan doesn't stumble in their last match and draw, they're on top of the table by a point. That's the difference here. We're not talking about anything, but like one stumble is going to be the difference. We just talked about when we talked earlier about the Bundesliga, or when we discussed that one season that Bayern Munich had, that they got beat by perfection, right? This is the season where you can't be anything less than perfect if you're a top 3, top 4 squad, because there are 3 points between every single Champions League spot. Obviously, we're going to ignore the coefficient for a minute. There are 3 points between 4th and 1st. And any stumble one week could cost you. If Napoli doesn't stumble, they're at 34 points. It's that close where anybody can take this.
Those return legs become so important now. It's game changers now. Like this. Honestly, I wish every league was like this. Like I wish that it was this. Like it's not crazy spreads. Like I have all my notes here of all the leagues, and PSG has a 7-point lead right now on. Wait, no. No, they have actually that. Never mind. Don't look at at Liga. Actually, that's a lot closer than I thought. I should have remembered that. But like Bundesliga, 9 points, 9 points clear. La Liga, Barcelona is that's 5 points. Actually, that's 4 points. Never mind. Don't look at that either. Okay, I guess this year is actually pretty close. Never mind.
It's okay.
Besides the Bundesliga, I was trying to go on a rant, and apparently I failed. See that, and it happens. But this, and weirdly enough, I guess everybody is really right now tight, and it is because it is still in play in the second. We're still in the first half of the season, but yeah, I think this is like really enjoyable. Where honestly, like even Bologna has a shot.
Yeah,
like shoot, even
you can say Como has a shot.
Como's still in play. Like these teams are still very much in the mix for the Scudetto, and I think that is awesome. That is still that tight knit. That any of these teams could ruin any of their seasons, and so that just makes it more fun to me. Now the team I'm going to highlight is Roma, because I think Roma, they've been trying to figure out what it needs to be done to get this club back on top of the Serie A. You had the Jose Mourinho experiment that almost looked like it was going to work out. But obviously, people got tired of Jose Mourinho before any progress could really happen. Then you bring in, who was it? Del Piero? Was it Del Piero that was?
I think, Alessandro Del Piero. I think he was the next manager.
Yeah, you either it was that or Toti. I don't remember. But you had a club legend come in and coach. Looked great, but obviously it's not as consistent. Obviously, because I don't think he had much coaching experience prior going into that Roma job. And you're still trying to figure things out. You're being active in the transfer market. You're going after guys. Obviously, you get a Paulo Dybala. It
was Daniele De Rossi.
De Rossi, my bad.
The American. I said it.
I guess he is technically Italian. He's Italian American or something like that.
Yeah. Born in America, born to American parents in Italy.
So, kind of. All right, but yeah, and they went after it, right? They went after the best person in Serie A, in my opinion, Gasperini. Which I'm forever gonna love him. You know what? I'm gonna find that picture of him shushing Xabi Alonso, by the way, and I'm just gonna frame it. Like whenever I have my own personal office, like everyone's gonna be like, "What's the picture of the old guy?" Like you just had to be there. You just had to be there for that. But I think he's the perfect person for this Roma project. They have a lot of good players. I think that for Roma, honestly, I don't even know. Well, actually, no, I do know what Roma needs. They need to score some goals. That's what they need to be doing. Because they're actually the best defensive team in Serie A.
It's not close.
8 goals allowed. 8 goals allowed, and you've only been able to score 16 goals. That needs to be fixed. Like, I mean, they need to add some more firepower. I don't know who you look into. There's like options, but you need to bring. I don't want to say Sorloth because that would just be cheap for me to mention him again. But you need to go. You need to find a 9. I'm really kind of like trying to think right now of a potential 9 that would be available. Go get Zeko.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that could work. Go get Jamie Vardy. See if you can bring him up from Cremonese.
Yeah, I don't think that's happening.
No, I think this Roma team is very interesting, right? It's not often you see us.
Go get Burkhardt.
Yeah, there you go, Jonathan Burkhardt. Yeah. Hey, we've seen German players move to the Bundesliga and move to Serie A, and they do well. So it wouldn't be surprising. Yeah, it is weird to always see a team where it's like, perfect defense, nearly perfect defense through the first half. Eight goals given up is crazy. But to only score 16, that's it's not a great look. It's not a great look for a top team. Obviously, there's whatever reasons you want to say. Maybe El Shaarawy is 33 years old and he's past his prime, so be it. Whatever. You still have Leon Bailey, who's really not performing either. But yeah, Roma just needs to figure it out. They need somebody to link it all together. It feels like more than anything. They have the talent. They just need somebody to link it together. Or just go get you a Sorloth-esque number 9. And I'll be the one that says Sorloth if you won't be. So, but yeah, Roma's a very interesting character. You always see them floating around the top 4. Like I said, this is like the olden days where Roma's there fighting. They're giving everything they got. But will it be enough? I don't know.
I'm pulling for the fans. I love their fans. Even the guy
one of the best stadiums too to watch in Serie A.
Great atmosphere. I think even that awkward fan that forced Jose Mourinho to witness their proposal. Like, I mean, like, all those things about Rome. There's just a passion there that it's
for a big city. It's unheard of.
That's where I was gonna go with it. For as massive as Rome is, like, yeah, like, I mean, yes, I know the Milans and all that, but I mean, like, for Roma is like, I mean, gladiators and all of that you can think of. This is kind of where you want to go, and I mean, also I would love to see Paul Dybala do it and just, like, just a massive fuck you, sorry for cussing Kelcey, to like Juventus, like that's just me, but yeah. Like it's really interesting what they're doing. I think Gasperini is the right guy. They need to just add some more power to that attack because this team should be contending for the Scudetto. This team should be lifting the Scudetto by the end of the season.
I don't know about lifting it because those top 2 teams are good luck getting past the Milans. I do think they can get past Napoli, but the Milans right now seem to be truly well and above everybody else.
Fair enough. I mean, Lautaro Martinez, just great as he always is for Inter Milan. Christian Pulisic looking like he should probably be the best player in Serie A.
It should have a shout at it for sure. I will not say those words again after the last time I said those words of, even though I was sarcastic about it. But no, I think Christian it's impressive to see what he does and to honestly see what he's been able to do, even splitting time, because he's not always starting. Comes off the bench, scores 2 goals in 3 minutes of game time. How many players do you know that can do that anywhere? And it's not like they're wonder goals every time. They're efficient, being in the right place and right time. And that's just like, if you've ever played FIFA, and I hate bringing up FIFA every time I do this, but there's an attack position category of stats. If you look at attack position, that's what attack position would mean, is being in the right place at the right time for tap-ins. Some people call them poachers, whatever, but it's not like one of those type of goals. He's very much just popping in when the trash is all bouncing around, and there he is. It's a goal. He does have some wonder goals though to go with it. It's just
I think for a U.S. men's national team fan standpoint, look, all the drama that came in with Christian Pulisic throughout the summer, everything that he was like circulated with the god awful docuseries that I don't know if it's still going and I hope it's not. All those things that he just kept drawing all this attention to, and I kept saying it like, am I going to be critical of Christian Pulisic? Of course I am. Who isn't? But like, the reality is, the reality is at the end of the day, Christian Pulisic, all he needed to do, and this isn't me saying shut up and dribble, is just let the ball do the talking for him. Remind people that, hey, I'm Christian Pulisic. I am the USA Wonder Kid until somebody can dethrone me. But I don't see that happening anytime soon. But he's going to surpass Landon Donovan. He's going to surpass Clint Dempsey. Like, to say that he's overrated might be a right word for some people to call him that, because I think that we do overhype him to a terrible extent. So I get the term overrated for him. But I mean, what he's doing for AC Milan, he's an important player for AC Milan. I believe he's leading Serie A and GA in goals and assists. I could be wrong on that, but I think at some point he was.
Sounds about right.
At some point he's definitely in the top in GA, and I think that like I said, if you're Christian Pulisic, you wanted to rest. You didn't want to compete in Gold Cup because you wanted to rest, and and we all said, hey, if you're gonna request this, you better ball out this season to make fans be excited come 2026 that Captain America or the LeBron James of soccer, that's never gonna pass for him. But like for him to show that, hey, I'm in the best shape of my life. I'm ready to lead this U.S. men's national team. God forbid he does get that captain torpid. But I think Christian Pulisic is playing great. But at the same time, on the flip side, right across the offices, Inter Milan also looking very strong as well. Like I said, Lautaro Martinez. I mean, the guy is just the Serie A. Like in my opinion, he's always going to be one of the leading forces of the Serie A. He's going to be one of the faces of Serie A till something proves me differently. I mean, Federico Di Marco is currently the leading assist guy. So,
well, Nico Paz now has 4 as well. So,
yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, look, he's tied with Nico Paz and Federico are tied with 5 apiece. But yeah, look, Inter's been impressive. It's not just Martinez though. You got to talk about Orsolini. Not Orsolini. He's with Bologna. With Colangelo. Those two guys, along with what you see with DeMarco, Nico Barella, by the way, has 4 assists. So third on the assists category there, tied with like 7 other guys there. They're impressive. And by the way, Latoro is actually leading from what I could find in GA. So he has 11 total goal contributions. Christian has 9. So probably somebody is ahead of me that I didn't account for. Whatever. But yeah, I look at that as like Inter's doing something impressive, but AC is also there with, Leao, Pulisic is playing out of his mind. Overall, both teams are just, they're not giving up. And that's the Milans we want to see. We don't want to see the Milans that continue to be, oh, I have this fancy jersey, but I'm not going to do anything useful in the San Siro. Like, I loved the San Siro being the mecca of soccer twice a year. No different than you would get the Bernabeu, or you'd get Camp Nou, or you'd get Anfield, or you'd get, Old Trafford. Like, take your pick. Any great stadium has a great rivalry, and there's no greater in my eyes than 2 teams that share the same stadium that are so passionately hateful towards each other.
Also, one greatest images of all time is still that picture from one of the Milan derbies. I forgot who it was, but I think it was like 2 icons of AC Milan and Inter that were just like standing next to each other and just seeing like the smoke and all that one of the best images.
One of the first soccer matches I ever watched was a Milan derby. And it was amazing. Honestly, it was 2004, 2005, something like that, which doesn't feel like that long ago, but I guess it's been 20 years. And it was just so amazing to watch it on TV that you're just like, I want to be a part of that. I want to be a part of that scene. I want to experience that one day. And the San Siro has always been a special place in my eyes, and especially when the teams are great, like you're seeing this year, when you have players at the top of the Golden Boot race, you have players at the top of the assist race. You probably have players at the top of the clean sheets race. They're fighting for not just Serie A, but they're also fighting for Champions League positioning. It is always the most impressive thing to watch when both Milans are great. And then you got Juve sitting there just outside, sneaking their way in. Roma, they brought themselves back. Serie A did, and it's good to see the Milans leading the way for sure.
Yeah, and the image I was referring to is the picture of Materazzi with Rui Costa.
Oh yeah.
So that's the image I was referring to. But we gotta mention the January transfer window again because I think it's gonna be very important. We mentioned some teams that could definitely use some additions to that team. But maybe what's the team that you're thinking of as far as needs to do something in January?
Oh, Como. I think Como has to be the team that if you look at the top 7, they're the team that needs to get the most out of it. You have Nico Paz, who's playing out of his mind right now, who I think is the top. He's got 10 goal contributions. So he's just behind Martinez. But then you also still have Jesus over there. And
also, you should probably remember, Real Madrid is rumored to do their buyback clause to get Nico Paz back.
Yeah. And it's tough, right? If they do that, then you lose your number 1 assist getter and you lose your number 1 goal scorer if you're Como. But you also have Jesus Rodriguez on the team that has been balancing it out. Maximo Perone. There are players on this Como squad led by Fabregas that can do some exceptional things. And I think it's a situation where you just need to bring somebody else in. You need to get something else, barring Real doing what Real does. But, we'll see. But to me, I look at Como as the team. They need to figure out something because the teams ahead of you are going to logjam. They're going to beat themselves up. If you can just stay steady and continue to win the games you're supposed to win and maybe sneak out a couple of these games against Milan's, against Roma, you have a great shot of climbing yourself into a Champions League spot anywhere in the Champions League, whether it be Europa or it be Conference League either.
Yeah, I think I won't look at a team, but I will say a player that all these teams, especially the teams that need defensive assistance, you need to call Sergio Ramos. The man wants to go back to Europe. He wants to solidify his chances of making the Spanish national team come the World Cup, which at first I thought was a kind of a bit of reach, but then when I looked at the center back options, I mean maybe he's not that wrong. But yeah, because if you're a team that needs defensive help, go get Sergio Ramos. I know, and I think he's perfect for Serie A in the current stage that he's at in his career. Not taking a jab at Serie A by any means. I just don't think I can't see him playing in the Premier League. I think La Liga he can still perform in. Bundesliga definitely, Liga definitely, but I think if he wants his best chance. Not saying that Serie A is bad, but I think if he wants his best chance to show how good of a defender he's going to be for Spain, he has to show it in the Serie A. I think obviously what the identity of Serie A has always been has been defense. How good they are in defensibility, technical ability. And so if you're Sergio Ramos, I think you need to come to a Serie A side and help boost some team, whether it's to get them into a European spot or maybe help them win the Scudetto.
Yeah, I like the call for Sergio. I'd say there's a couple other defenders that maybe you can get that are already in Europe, and you don't have to worry about that age conversation. You talk about Inacio over at Sporting CP, Portuguese defender. Liverpool's linked with them right now. They don't do great every time in the transfer window, let me tell you. They do pretty good in January, but honestly, you can sneak some of these guys. You have a chance with Murillo. You have a chance with even Konate coming from Liverpool because he's up for a contract renewal at the end of the season. And then you have the guy sitting over there at Barcelona in Ronald Araujo. Can he make a transition to the Bundesliga or to the Serie A? I think those are guys that you look at you don't need to go get Sergio Ramos. You could get cheaper with Sergio Ramos, but you could also get higher upside with one of these other guys for longer periods. And as much as I'd like to see Sergio back in the Spanish, uniform come next July, I would rather see some of these squads in Serie A take a shot at some of these defenders that they're out of contract at the end of 26, at the end of the season, because there's a lot of center backs out there, a lot of guys that could make that move. And it's something that it'll be interesting to watch for sure. Somebody's making a move and it's going to be game-changing for better or worse, for sure.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. But I mean, Sergio Ramos is going to be free. So, there's that.
You got to pay those wages, man. Those weekly wages are no joke for somebody like that.
No, yeah, I definitely get that part.
$450,000 a month, something like that. Crazy.
Yeah. No, you're not wrong for that. You're not wrong to say that. But
I don't know about you, but I can't afford that.
I can't even afford a wish.
Couldn't even afford 1% of that.
But that is Serie A. Is there anything you want to add on to Serie A before we wrap this up?
Yeah, I think this is a division, or this is a league that you look at as, like you said, arguably top 1, top 3, somewhere in that range. Depends on where you pull them at. It's going to come down to Serie A beating themselves up versus, like, what do they end up weighing enough when it comes to Champions League, right? Do you weigh the Scudetto as more than the Champions League trophy? Because you get a lot more money from the Champions League trophy, but you don't get as much prestige within Italy. And we all know Italian leagues, they love their prestige. So I think we're going to see that as the defining factor when they look at these top 4 teams, still fighting for Champions League spots. What do they actually weigh as their priority? That's going to determine how far they can actually fight in the Champions League versus how far they fight for the Scudetto. So that's my 2 cents on that.
It's funny. We talk, I mentioned Atalanta, but they are killing it right now in the Champions League. They're currently in 5th place. 6th place is Inter right behind them. Yeah, that's it. Juve's there. That's all I can say.
They exist. They're going to make it to the next round.
Napoli, I think Napoli's playing the PSG route. They're like, we'll sit there at 23rd.
Yeah. Honestly, it's not a bad place to be. If you just, because you don't have to play every league game or like the table games like it's their end all be all like they were in the group stages. You can strategically take them off. You can play your reserves. It's not a bad situation to be in when you're coming down to decision day for the Champions League table and you can sneak your way into the top, 24 teams?
Mm-hmm.
So.
No, yeah, I totally get that. But, all right, that is the Serie A. Kelcey, obviously, it's always a pleasure to have you on. And, of course, it's the end of the year episode. We had to do it big. A lot of personalities that are on this episode just in general right now. But, Kelcey, thank you as always. And this is your time to tell us what's going on at High Low Sports, man.
Yeah, man, it's always great to be back. I always love my chance to talk soccer. Yes, I said soccer. But yeah, you can check out High Low Sports for general sports conversations every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern time on social media for Belly Up. And then you can check us out on the Belly Up YouTube page every Thursday morning. We'll be out with a new episode. Check us out on audio. Just search High Low Sports Podcast on your favorite platforms. Yeah, we're going down to our end of year as well. We don't honestly know what we're doing for the New Year's Christmas holiday yet, but we're doing something fun. Last year it was favorite Christmas present of past, favorite Christmas movie was one year, favorite New Year's tradition. We'll come up with something fun, but yeah, it's always great to be back, and happy holidays to everybody who celebrates. Thank you so much, Kelcey. Make sure you guys check out High Low Sports, man.
What are you doing? What are you doing?
All right, guys. So it's La Liga, and we have José Téllez from Goals TV. I don't know why I paused there. José Téllez from Goals TV. Obviously, founder, creator, mastermind, all those things that we have said plenty of times. I know I glaze him a lot, but hey, I do what I gotta do. So,
my man. I appreciate you.
But La Liga, man. If there's a word you want to describe La Liga so far this season, what's that word?
Stressful from a number of perspectives, bro. As someone who's a big La Liga fan, I feel like I watch this league more than any league that I do watch. It's crazy that we went from last season being like, I don't want to say golden year for La Liga, but it felt like we were coming back to the good times. Like, the coefficient was leaning our way. We had multiple teams competing and going and progressing throughout European competitions, all of them. And of course, I felt like the best team in the world up to a certain point last year was Spanish. And so like you combine all of that. If you were a La Liga fan, bro, it was amazing. You cross into this season and it feels like the exact fucking opposite. It feels like every team is down bad. You have Prem fans just like dancing on our heads in Europe because Prem teams are beating us, because other teams are pulling off upsets against us in European competitions. And that's Spanish teams across the board. And then beyond that, even within the league itself, like there's, whether it's, teams getting pillaged in the summer window or other things just happening, it doesn't feel quite as exciting as it did last season. And then me as a Barca fan, Bro, the injuries, you know that as a Madrid fan too. It's just like I feel like there's so much negative to bring up in the first half. If you hear me say all of this, you would never guess my team is literally top of the table as we speak. Because it doesn't feel that way. There's so much going on. But yeah, bro. Nonetheless, I'm a diehard, so we're here. I'm ready to talk about it.
Yeah, and I mean, we'll start things off with the top of the table. As you guys know, there's a date right there. If you're watching the video version, I'll tell you right now in the audio version that it is December 15th. So things are going to change. Obviously, there's matches this weekend for La Liga. So yeah, there's going to be some changes. So if you guys listen to this after the 15th or before, before the 15th would be impressive. But after this, look, I'm going to do it. Players fuck up. All right. That's fine. It's fine. But obviously sitting in first place on top of the table is Barcelona with 43 points. Barcelona, coming off of what I argue I wouldn't say the best season, obviously, because there's been better seasons for Barcelona in its history. But, from all that's been going through with Barcelona with the whole financing issues, they finally go back to the 1-1 status. Obviously, Camp Nou, fingers crossed, is finally going to be ready to be used. All these things with Barcelona. So to go into a season where I guess anticipation's at an all-time high, you had the game of the year, which was with Inter Milan. So like you would think that everything is just pointing at Barcelona's way. Even I said it at some point where I had to earmuffs Edward because I didn't want to say anything nice about Barcelona in front of him. But yeah. And I said it last year, Barcelona was a lot of fun to watching Lamine Yamal. I hate that he plays for the Barca team, but he has been enjoyable to watch. I get to enjoy him when he gets to play for Spain because I don't have to be depressed. But Barcelona has been great this season. Yeah, the overwhelming is probably the word I would use for this season as a whole for La Liga so far. I think at some point, any fan of any of these teams have felt overwhelmed with what's going on. But yeah, Barcelona, despite being on top of the table, they are 4 points clear right now of Real Madrid, which is second place. Just went ahead and put that out. But it's not a safe first place, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, definitely not. If we look at what happened last season, for those who weren't in the know, keep in mind at one point, both of the big two, right, Barca and Real Madrid, threw away a solid point gap lead, both of them. In October, Barca had like an 8-point gap. They had established the top of the table. By December, January, it was 10 points in favor of Real Madrid at the top. And then we reversed that and came back and won the title. So
also, there was that weird point that Atletico Madrid was on top of the table.
Yeah, bro. And before they had their own fall off, right? And I think it all started with that 4-2 comeback against Barca that Barca had. So there's La Liga is very much a league of moments. There will be moments that shift the entire landscape of the big three, the top four, whatever it might be, and determine who the title winner will be. And I think we saw the first one in El Clasico this season. I think when you think about where Barcelona was, where Real Madrid was, there was so much animosity built up between the two teams because of how last year went, right? I think when you lose to your biggest rival 4 games in a row in one season, bro, like bulletin board material is not even a strong enough term. Like it really is like you fucking hate those guys. You hate those guys. And it goes above and beyond anything. It becomes so personal that I expected fully Real Madrid to show up for that game because of not just the animosity, but because of the form Mbappe was in, the new manager at the helm, Real Madrid's clicking at following the Club World Cup. Sure, they exited a little bit earlier than they planned, but they looked like the best La Liga side for the first 2 months of the season. And then we get to El Clasico, and rightfully so, they're the better team and they won. But what's interesting is what happens after that, right? Because I feel like my buddy Andre described it as like two ships passing in the night, where it felt like they kind of just started going in the opposite directions. And Barca didn't get on track right away. In fact, they dropped the ball with 2 very big tests since El Clasico. But if you go beyond those, and now Barca being on a 5-game winning streak, Real Madrid being in, I won't say a crisis, but it feels like for who Real Madrid is, a crisis, right? But they have a standard that goes above and beyond almost any other club out there. So it's just interesting what's taken place since then. And from Barca's perspective, The crazy part is statistically, we're not even that far away from where we were last season at this point. I think we had 4 more points or 5 more points than we have now. We had a couple more goals scored and a few goals less conceded. And keep in mind, this team's going to concede goals like fucking crazy. Like if you look at the table today, look at goal differential, I think there isn't a single team in the top 6 who has conceded as many goals as we have. The next team that's conceded more goals than Barcelona is Athletic Club sitting in 7th. Granted, we've outscored everybody by a mile, but it's just one of those things where I think fans get nervous, pundits get nervous, everybody in between when you can't keep goals out of the back of the net, when you can't keep clean sheets. So that concern will always be there. Real Madrid has their own things going on, but bro, this league, we're not anywhere close to being done. There's going to be plenty of peaks and valleys between now and even February, bro. Like the next stretch of games, the festive period for La Liga is going to be massive. And let's not forget, the Supercopa in Saudi is mixed in there in between. So the Madrid derby, Barca Athletic Club, could be an El Clasico final. There's so much that could shift the tide very, very quickly over the next couple months.
You bring up Barcelona's, like, I guess, defensive, as far as a top team goes, struggles. But how do you feel about essentially living and dying by the high line?
I think it's who we are, and I don't have a problem with it. I think my problem comes with fans who have the most unrealistic expectations of what that means. Because if you look at any Hansi Flick team, could have been the German national team where many of his systems failed, and it could have been the Bayern Munich side where in the first season it was amazing, the second season they dropped off, but they still won trophies. It puts a lot of physical labor and pressure on his teams to play this ridiculous version of entertaining football. But if Hansi lives and dies by this, so will I. And what I mean by that is you got to understand that the laziest take in the world is to say that the high line is the reason we concede so many goals. It's the laziest take in the world. I think you actually have to watch the games to understand. You can't watch highlights and plays in isolation, right? You have to watch the build up to that moment, the moment the long ball came over the top and created a 40-yard sprint between the keeper and the striker who had the ball in the breakaway. Like, we get to that point because of our forward line not pressing as much as they need to. And in a lot of ways, you can argue, you can almost say Barcelona's success depends less so on what they do on the ball and more so on what they do off the ball. Mm-hmm. If Hansi Flick lives and dies by the high line, so do I, provided that we can execute the rest of the tactics and the style of play that we have, not to perfection, but to the way the manager wants us to play it. So this is why getting someone like Rafinha back into the lineup, who is the spiritual leader of the team, the captain, lives and breathes Barca through and through. The guy bleeds Blaugrana at this point. He needs to be there so that he can rally the troops, so that he can demand more of the front line when they just decide, when Rashford decides or Lamine Yamal decides or Fermin decides to stop pressuring because their legs are a little bit run down and they want to save themselves for the next play when they get the ball. No, man. If pressuring from the front leads us to not just preventing issues with the back line, but to also winning the ball back as high up the pitch as possible, which is what Hansi Flick wants us to do. That's how we have so many goals. There's a 15 goals for gap between us and Real Madrid. And they have Kylian Mbappe. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not by accident. That is by design, but only when we execute the tactics properly. So the high line, it's not a problem for me. That might be a hot take. It's not a problem for me. I really don't care. We just have to execute the rest of it the way it needs to be executed upon. Otherwise, it doesn't matter what style of play we have. Does not matter what the tactics are. If we don't execute all across the pitch, we're not going to be successful. We're not going to hoist up the trophies at the end of the season. So stop complaining about the high line at home, please. Stop complaining about it. It's not the problem.
No, yeah, I think me and Edward, we joke around with about Hansi Flick's high line because his philosophy, the made-up philosophy that we have with Hansi Flick is, did you run 5 miles? And doesn't matter, you're going to run 5 more. So, that's really the importance of Barcelona's highlight. I mean, any of Hansi Flick's highlights is, I mean, you remember the funny before and after pictures of Robert Lewandowski going from kind of not scrawny, but to become an Adonis. And so, like, those are the things that comes with Hansi Flick. He's going to be very big on fitness because his tactics very much depends on your fitness. And so, and I think that when you do live and die off the high line, it's gonna work when it works. And honestly, like, it's not. This isn't rocket science. Everybody knows this. If you have a super fast guy who's really good at scoring goals and have some guys that midfielders, quote unquote midfielders, that know how to deliver the ball and time those runs perfectly, you usually get a pretty good result against that defense. Now, this is where I transition to Real Madrid because that's also a big glaring issue. But yeah, Real Madrid, which is funny. You talk about if any other team in the world, you're second place, you're 4 points away from first if you can just get your shit together. And honestly, it's not even a bad season if you look at the numbers, because 16 goals allowed, very good defensively, not the best defense, but very good defensively, and scored 34 points, which is, almost half of it is Mbappe's. But, if you told that to any team that, like, in that scenario, I was like, things probably are clicking, right? Because you're playing kind of complete football in some sense. You're playing good defensively, and you're doing you should be doing good things on the attack. You're not. Apparently, you're not, because every fucking game I have to see. Sorry for cussing, Kelcey. Every game I have to hear about this article of this conversation that Vinny had saying that he wants to leave because he's not happy because he hates Xabi Alonso, and I keep reiterating that this is basically the plots of the Mighty Ducks, and so
that's a good analogy. I like that.
Because, Carlo Ancelotti was banging Vinny's mom. And so, like, all this...
God. Shout out Charlie Conway's mom. All that crap. And it was just like, once again, we're talking about an article that happened a month ago. And it's I love you, Marca, because you got to stay as toxic as humanly possible. And it's just funny. After every Real Madrid win, all of a sudden, Real Madrid's board has decided we're going to just see what's going on with Xabi Alonso. We know that we believe in him, but we might fire him. Like, at this point, to the point where Arbeloa is rumored to be the next guy in line, which I think is crazy.
Hilarious.
Crazy, bro. Like, insane. I cannot imagine Arbeloa managing the first team. That's just me.
And to the point where they're asking him, hey, how do you feel being the next guy in line? He's like, I'm still managing Castilla. I don't...
Yeah. It's like the Rafa Marquez rumors for Barca before Hansi Flick got hired. It's like, yeah, we can entertain this if you want to, but when you're ready to be serious, I'll be here.
Yeah, so I thought it was funny. Apparently, Vinny hates everybody. The locker room's divided. The guys that like Xabi, the guys that don't like Xabi. Like, to me, it's just been hilarious. Jew wants to be out. Valverde wants to be out, of all people. The only person I don't blame if they actually want to be out is Endrick. So, and I
for real, bro. Yeah. I mean, like Real Madrid, bro. It's the crazy part about all this too is that, like, it can instantly flip. Mm-hmm. Instantly. Like, yes, you have all of these issues, right, that you just laid out for all of us, but at the same time, Real Madrid has such good talent on paper that it takes one insane performance from the team to just probably flip this around. I always say Real Madrid's the one club in the world that is not measured by progress. They are only measured by trophies. That's it. It is the only thing that matters. So when you think about that, let's say they lose La Liga. It won't matter if they get into the knockout rounds of Champions League and they start just finding a way to catch some kind of form. And even if it's only in that competition and they phone in La Liga the rest of the season, whatever, they're not going to care if they end up being the ones to hoist that trophy at the end of it all. And while many fans probably can't see that right now, it's still their competition, bro. Like, sure, PSG won it. I don't see PSG winning it again this year. Sure, Arsenal maybe had the best statistical odds according to bookmakers out there. Arsenal has no European pedigree. This is Real Madrid's competition. And so I feel like they could decide to turn it on at some point. And if for those who don't believe me, go look at the three-peat for Real Madrid. In those seasons, the 2017, 18, and 19 seasons, or 16, 17, and 18, whatever it was, they did not hoist La Liga in those years. Barcelona did. Barcelona won it, but Real Madrid still found a way every single year to get back to the final and then win it. Didn't even matter if they were dominating that final, right? And even recently when they beat Liverpool in the Champions League final or whatever, Liverpool was the better team. They get one brilliant moment from Valverde and Vinny, and they win. And so this team is very much a moments team. And that's what makes everything that I said before about Barca extremely relevant. Like, as much as I love that, yeah, we are far and away, in my opinion, the best team in La Liga statistically, on the table, from a team chemistry standpoint, whatever. You could point to a number of angles, but Real Madrid could just find a way to go on a run. We pick up a few injuries, go on our downward run of form ourselves, and before you know it, we're right back in a crazy La Liga title race. And so, yeah, man, I think those who are choosing to look at Real Madrid the same way you look at every other team and just judge them based on run of form, on what the latest narratives are, the latest headlines, Vinny, Mbappe, Jude, whoever's pissed off this week, whatever it might be, none of it matters if we get to February, March, and they're taking down giants in the Champions League. Like, none of that matters. So I think there's so much that's still to be determined with Real Madrid.
Yeah, and for people that are kind of trying to be heavily critical, I mean, most of the games that I've watched Real Madrid, yes, they're overwhelming, but they're very close. The only blowout, and honestly, that Real Madrid had, well, I guess not including Champions League, but was against Atletico Madrid. I mean, I believe that was like a 5-2 loss. And I mean, aside from that, there's 16 goals allowed so far this season for Real Madrid. That's tied with other teams for second. As for 13, the right now the leading defense is Villarreal with 13 goals allowed, which that's probably why they're positioned third place. But yeah, I don't think Xabi's the issue. I was all about Xabi Alonso coming in. Like Carlo Ancelotti, I think at that point he just ran his course with the club. If there was any animosity between Vinny and Xabi Alonso, I think it's very much just scrapped at this point. Because I think at the end of the day, once Real Madrid starts winning, everything is just going to be all kumbaya once again. And it's Real Madrid. Everyone wants to come up, find their story, and I think that's what La Marca did was going, hey, remember that temper tantrum that Vinny had in El Clasico? Let's bring that back up again. And I'll say this, like, if for guys that want to leave Real Madrid, like Vinny, obviously, as far as I know, I think Real Madrid basically told Vinny, like, hey, this is what we're offering you. If you don't want it, you go kick rocks. So, like, and honestly, that was the moment where Vinny should have realized they don't care. Like, no. if you want out, go ahead. We don't care.
Honestly, bro, it's always been that way. Yeah. And I think, like I said, in this age where players feel like they have more power, they do. But, like, bro, it's Real Madrid. Like, do you not feel like the best, like the best, biggest club, the most historic club in history is not going to find a way to replace you? You think that they don't have every super agent, access to every big name at your position they can use to replace you? Like, yes, bro, they can in a heartbeat. Bro, if they fucking wanted to, they replace his ass with Mo Salah tomorrow. Like, if they wanted to. They want to replace him with Leao or any other giant winger out there and bring in Erling Haaland and let Mbappe run the left side. They could do that 1,000%. So, he doesn't really have much power. And I will say this, if he did have any power, it would only be in a scenario like to control the transfer. It would be only in a scenario where he was in the form he was in during his Ballon d'Or season, right? Mm-hmm. His Ballon d'Or campaign when he got runner up. I think that since then we have not seen Vinny show up and at least get back to that form. And especially when he guaranteed 10x or whatever he said, right? That whole post about I'm going to do it 10x over again, like whatever. He hasn't gotten to that point. And so now it's like, I think Madrid fans had this type of narrative happened in that year, Madrid fans would have been putting a ton of pressure on Perez and the front office to figure out a way to get this done, to get his extension done. And the fans would have backed him tooth and nail. Now I feel like he's not putting up anywhere near those numbers. He hasn't scored in any of the Champions League games through 6 of them so far this season. It's easy to be like, you know what, bro, get the hell out. Like I if you can't put up, if you can't produce at the same rate at which you're complaining, the pros don't outweigh the cons. Like at this point, just move on and let somebody else come in. Here's going to be a team player. And who knows, man, this could be start of a massive shift because at some point they're going to have to choose between Xabi Alonso and Vinny. Vinny's a very much a power rest with the players type of personality. His personality needs to be massaged pretty frequently. Xabi Alonso's not that guy. He's very structured, very rigid, very Arteta-like, very Pep-like. And so if they decide to back him, which I think they should, in my opinion, I'll be honest, as much as I would hate to see it happen, I can only imagine a Real Madrid side that operated the efficiency of Pep-like teams, Arteta-like teams, or even the Leverkusen team that went invincible in the Bundesliga a couple seasons ago. So you're getting the players that buy into a system like that, that would be a scary version of Real Madrid. With that said, I just don't ever see it being that because of who you guys traditionally are. And so if you choose to move on from Xabi Alonso, it'd be interesting. Keep in mind, I think points per game, he's beating Ancelotti. I think points per game, he's tied with Zidane's best ever season at Real Madrid. So for those who are saying, dude, we're in crisis, Xabi Alonso, even if that is true, he's still outperforming what you guys knew Carlo Ancelotti to be as a manager last season.
Yeah, and I mean, it kind of like, and going to D3 of the Mighty Ducks, you have a coach that emphasizes defense. And I think that Real Madrid, this is a more defensive Real Madrid. But it's not like the attack is like getting hurt by it. They're still having their moments and they're still providing. Shoot, Rodrigo had his moment in the last match against, I think it was Alaves. So I mean, like the attack is things are gonna come up. Like it's gonna work out. I think Health right now is kind of being a son of a bitch right now, and also just stupid red cards that that happened in a certain game I don't want to talk about. Because that was God.
that might have been one of the most epic hate watches I've had in a while. That was insane.
Yeah, I mean, for any Barca fan, I'm sure you guys enjoyed it thoroughly. Especially that whatever the fuck that last goal was. Sorry for cussing Kelcey.
Celta de Vigo, man. It was great to watch another team trip up over that club because it's typically about to have more seasons than not.
Yeah, I mean that I always tell people that Celta Vigo is a son of a bitch. I will say that. But yeah, Real Madrid, I think they'll be fine. I think Xabi Alonso, like I said, all these rumors are just like, to me, are just fake. You know, to quote Donald Trump, fake news. So I mean, I'm used to it as a Madrista. I've heard every rumor. I've heard how Carlo Ancelotti wants to be out. Blah blah blah. Yeah, even with Carlo Ancelotti, there was rumors of him getting fired. So this isn't news to me. This is just another day at Real Madrid being the club that gets all the pressure for it. So, and if you guys want to say anything, you can thank Fat Ronaldo for making me a fan of this team, because that's the reason why I support this club. It wasn't for that guy. It wasn't for that guy. Who knows what I would have been supporting?
Hey, bro. I mean, who knows, bro? You could have been a Barca fan, bro. Who knows? But either way, man, I fully expect Real Madrid to bounce back. I think they'll make this a crazy La Liga title race, but like I said, even if they don't, there's just so much else they can do, and it would throw everybody for a complete loop, especially those who don't watch La Liga week in and week out.
Yeah, definitely. And then, we got to talk about this. Villarreal, third place, 35 points, won their last 5 games, kind of on the same pace as Barcelona. This weekend's going to be really interesting because they are going against Barcelona in the game that was supposed to be in Miami. Yep. But it's a really interesting team with Villarreal. Very good defensively. Maybe not the sexiest team when it comes to goal scoring. They do have 31 goals to add to the list, but very defensively. That's what Villarreal is going to be. Do you see any point Villarreal, maybe someone finds that chink in the armor and kind of exposes them?
Righteous Felon Craft Jerky is the official jerky of Belly Up Sports. For over a decade, Righteous Felon Craft Jerky has led the American meat snack revolution by concocting delicious, adventurous, U.S.-sourced jerky recipes for uncompromising carnivores across the country. With 15 different flavors to choose from, Righteous Felon has all jerky lovers covered, and by using promo code BELLYUP, you will get 15% off your purchase at righteousfelon.com. Do your taste buds a favor today and rip into a bag of Righteous Felon jerky.
Yeah, I mean, Villarreal's been a pretty good team in the Liga for a few seasons now. They did a lot of business in the summer, and it's probably the case for the last 2 seasons in a row. Even after moving on guys like Yeremy Pino to the Premier League, and I think he's doing very well at Crystal Palace. I expected Villarreal to contend. I really did. I think some of the players who have stepped up, though, have really surprised me. This team has a ton of firepower. The issue with Villarreal are the big games. That really is. You look at Champions League, you look at anything else, man. The fact that they're going down to the likes of, I think they lost to, it was either Karabag or Copenhagen. I mean, there were Bafos even mixed in there, gave them a game. There's just some of these, like, what most fans consider to be minnows of European competitions, giving them a real run for their money in those competitions. Where in La Liga, they tend to just like have this strong sense of comfortability and are not scared of any big team. Not to mention La Ceramica, where they play at home, is one of the most hostile places to play. So talking about the Barcelona game this coming weekend, it's going to be a tough one. And keep in mind, bro, last year we lost to Villarreal. I want to say it was we traded points away from home. So they beat us at, thank God we're not playing at the Montjuic anymore. They beat us at the Montjuic and we beat them at La Ceramica. Pretty convincingly too. Like it was like fucking 4 or 5-1, something like that. So, this game's going to be insane. But I still think they are going to lock in the third spot. I think right now, Athletic Club, both of those teams are down horrendous right now. And I feel like in their own right, I mean, like context is super important. So when you look at this team, what they're capable of being, I think José Perez is not what he was last season. I mean, to be fair, he was never going to reproduce those numbers. The guy was a freak last season at 31 years old. You look at dude, I mean, for those who love CONCACAF, Tejan Buchanan, I never saw him being successful at Villarreal. I'll be honest. Like when he moved from Inter, I was like, this must have been like a market opportunity because I don't even know what they really saw, but he stepped up in a big way. Bro, Nico Pepe, I mean, if we're talking, if I talk to have this conversation with Jack from Deadball TV, I mean, this guy loves Nico Pepe. And, I see why. I mean, for considering he was a free transfer at the end of it all, he's someone that has been so worth every cent they've paid him since he signed for Villarreal. So they have pieces, bro, pieces that should scare anybody. And they'll have a lot to throw at Barca and Real Madrid again whenever they play them. All that's going to be at play. But I still think when it all shakes out, they're still going to end up third behind either Real Madrid or Barca, depending on who finishes first, who finishes second.
Yeah, man. Yeah, shout out to Nico Pepe and his beloved girlfriend Tiana Trump.
Those videos, by the way, are hilarious, bro.
Jesus Christ.
Them asking Tiana about like how his personality is and stuff like that. I'm like, bro, who cares, man? Just just get to the football.
We all know why you know her.
Yeah. Let's not. This is some true romance story. All right. Let's not beat around the bush here.
Literally. Yeah. In fourth place, Atletico Madrid with 34 points. Obviously down, but not necessarily out for Atletico Madrid. But this is kind of what they do, in my opinion, in the second half of the season. I think this is a bizarre year where the quote-unquote big three, I try to say that, be nice to Spencer, because he does like Atletico Madrid. This is a year where you have Real Madrid beating Barcelona beating Atletico Madrid, and then Atletico Madrid beat Real Madrid, and that just tells you that beating each other does not do anything, because it doesn't really matter where they stand, because like I said, La Liga has like a bunch of teams here that just love to ruin your season. Celta Vigo, prime example. So like it's never. Speaking of a team that likes to ruin our seasons, fifth place Espanyol in that Europa League spot with 30 points.
Crazy.
You poached their guy.
Yeah, we did, and I did not think they would backfill him. And they did, bro. It's crazy that Dimitrovic has come in and been like a fucking revolution over there, like a revelation over there. I feel like I was saying this last season about Espanyol, and they've always been like this tough team to break down. If anybody remembers the Catalan derby last season, Barcelona barely won. Craziest environment ever. There was like a scenario where like outside the stadium before the game, a fan was getting mauled, a Barca fan was getting mauled in their car, and they just like completely took off, started running over people. So like that environment around the game was super tense. We took their best player, right? Their keeper, generational talent in my opinion. And bro, they backfilled like he was nothing. Dimitrovic was, I think he was playing for, was it? It wasn't Levante. No, because Levante got promoted. It was, dude, why am I going blank on this now? I'll have to come back and find it. But Dimitrovic was someone that I think amongst like the bottom feeders of La Liga was like my standout keeper. I think last season he was a top 3 keeper in my opinion. Just had a shit defense in front of him and they couldn't, he made every save he possibly could, but at the end of it, it didn't really matter when it was all said and done. The team just wasn't good enough. And you look at what he's doing now with Espanyol. I'm not going to say him alone or keep him in games. You have Prado doing work over there. It's just crazy how like Espanyol was able to build off last season while losing arguably their most important piece. So Barca has Espanyol coming up very soon. That will be a very telling game about Espanyol's ambitions for Europe.
No, yeah, for sure. I think it's gonna be interesting. I think as far as like January transfer window goes, I would like to see what Espanyol does, just because like
Leganes, that was the team.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously they're relegated.
They're relegated now. Yeah, bro. I mean, the Serbian has been massive for them, bro. So like, I think with Espanyol, it's just I don't know how long they can keep this up, right? It feels like Sunderland in the Prem. Like, how long can they do it? And bro, and trust me, I don't want Espanyol to, as cool as it is to see teams make the league really competitive, this is not the team I want to see do it, man. I mean, outside of Madrid, this is the next team I probably hate the most in La Liga. Espanyol and everybody else.
I think you have a fair point with Espanyol because 16 goals allowed, obviously tied second with a shit ton of teams for that in that aspect. Only 20 goals scored. They're not really scoring like what a team that you would argue would be contending for a Champions League spot. Do they go into the January transfer window and go find themselves more power on that attack side? Who knows? Maybe that's where they go look at come January, especially if they're hoping, because especially if you're a team that maybe some people would argue have no business being in where they are. This is kind of that time where like, all right, we need to take advantage of this opportunity. This is the time to go and spend on a home run hitter, maybe 2 or 3 guys, especially on the attacking side, that can really take this team over the top. Because like you said, the momentum could fall off at any point.
Yeah.
So if you're Espanyol, you gotta throw some more wood in that fire. So I think that's a really interesting thing to go to. Also in Europa Conference is Real Betis in 6th place with 25 points. I will say, I think surprisingly enough, like the league table is still kind of fairly open in all regions. Maybe not the top side because when we were looking at the other leagues, I don't even think there's many teams that have this many amount of points already when you're talking about on the Champions League side.
Yeah.
So I think that's really important to mention. But I think 17th to 6th place, they're still very open. Real Betis, I could see them kind of start improving and maybe jump into that Europa League spot as well. So I think that's also something to point out. But you said Athletic Club Bilbao. Is there anything you want to say about Athletic Club Bilbao, by the way, that you want to add?
I think they're just like the fall off they're experiencing this season is crazy. I think not just like as a team. I look at the defense too, and that they've also dropped off significantly, especially when you look at some of the guys they have back there, bro. Like Dani Vivian is a monster. I would take him at Barcelona like tomorrow, 1000%. But I think individual talents have dropped off significantly. I think Nico Williams, after that whole 2 years in a row Barca saga, not being able to live up to all the hype that was generated during that, he's dropped off noticeably. But even like their top scorer, Sunset from last season, bro, it's like, I know he's a 10, he's a cam, he's not necessarily your tried and true goal scorer, but when you pump in that many goals, what was it, like 15, 16 last year? Like the fact that he can't even sniff anywhere close to good goal scoring form from his perspective, that's insane to me. And Yaki getting injured in and out. Berenguer can't, bro. He sometimes can't even find the side netting if he wanted to. So some of their attacking pieces have just dropped off in a way that I'm like, bro, what happened? It's one thing to, again, not be relevant in Europe. I didn't expect much in the Champions League this season, but to lose some of the games they're losing in La Liga is pretty eye-opening. So I expect them to bounce back, but if they don't, that equally wouldn't be the most surprising thing in the world.
Yeah, 15 goals scored, 22 goals allowed, -7 goal differential, and you're talking about a team that has 2 guys that are featured in the Spanish national team at the center back position. That's a hey, maybe Sergio Ramos can get into the Spanish national team.
And look, bro, we will get very telling read on Bilbao very soon, as well as Espanyol. They play each other at the time of recording a week from today on the Monday game coming in before Christmas. So that's going to be, I think, a big one to try and like gauge where both teams are at. Are Espanyol's European ambitions real? And then from Athletic Club, can they get to where they were last season? Going up against a team that's not going to make it easy. You have one of the lowest scoring attacks versus one of the best defenses in the league at this moment. So Yeah, man. I think that game's going to be a big one for La Liga fans.
Yeah, definitely. And then on the relegation side, we got 18 players Girona with 15 points. Also, they're not the only team with 15 points. I mean, you have Osasuna and Valencia as well, and Real Sociedad with 16 points. So they're not that far away
Yeah.
as far as getting that relegation spot. But Girona currently, I don't know, man. So throw some players their way. I guess I don't really know what to tell you.
Yeah, they won't. They've actually taken players from Girona in like the last window. So, bro, they treat them like they're I don't know, just like a dumpster they can just pull resources from whenever they need to and not invest anything back into. But you know what's crazy is that Girona I don't know, man. Like they may find a way to stay in, which would be the craziest scenario considering, bro, I had them at the preseason as my bottom of the table pick. They were there because of not only zero investment in the window. I think they added like one or two pieces, like Unahi, for example, who came in like on a fantastic deal, like almost a free. But outside of that, bro, they've had resources plucked from them. They haven't recovered from like losing their three best players in that one season a couple of years ago where they finished third in the table. And if they were to stave off relegation, Michel as a manager, needs to get his flowers, bro, because there's only so much you can do with no investment.
Exactly. 19 players is everyone's favorite FIFA career mode rebuild team, Real Oviedo, with 10 points.
Bro. I had to cheer for Oviedo because of Cazorla at the end of the day. Like, it's a great feel-good story. But let's be real, bro. They're getting relegated. Like, it is what it is. They're not scoring anywhere near the amount of goals that they need to be competitive in this league. And what I will say is that they'll still give teams a run for their money in games. Like, don't get me wrong. They'll make it super competitive, but they just won't be threatening enough to get those games over the line. Bro, you look at their goals for, it's terrible. Like, how they're actually not in the bottom spot is amazing to me because Levante has significantly a better attack than Real Oviedo.
Yeah, I would definitely say that. But unfortunately, right now, once again, it is December 15th. Levante has a game in hand, so that could change.
It could change. It could change.
Honestly change. But Levante right now is currently in that last spot with 9 points. Yeah, I mean, I wasn't shocked as far as like that goes with some of the teams here that did. You know, I believe Levante and Real Oviedo were the two of the three teams that did get promoted this year. It's just what happens in this league. Like I'm sure if you're Real Oviedo, you really wish you could get that financial takeover right now.
Yeah, bro. Yeah, no lie, bro. No lies detected.
But looking at the rest of the table, is there a team that you're like keep an eye on this team? They're either they're gonna jump up a few spots.
I think the team that I would keep an eye on probably more than anybody is, man, at the top end. So there's two teams, probably one on each side. On the top end, I think it's probably going to end up being, I want to say Celta. The issue with Celta is that they have games like they did against Real Madrid where things just go right for them. Some controversial calls go their way, and they seemingly step up. They're also a very difficult team to play at home. But after qualifying for Europe, this team has been also very flat and very mixed in terms of consistency. So I say watch out for them depending on what they might decide to try and do in the window. And when I say the window, they may try and go after some players abroad that are no names, that have made maybe some waves in their respective domestic leagues, but it's still going to be a jump up for them to compete in La Liga. So I think Celta should be trying to do more. And I think with what they accomplished last season, they're the ones that probably have the biggest fire lit under them to go out and try and do something to be better than the eighth place team we all know they usually are most seasons. On the back end, though, I think there'll be some shifts in the relegation zone. I actually think Girona could get out. I don't see Valencia dropping in. They always find a way to just like climb up the table in the second half. Osasuna, to me, are a massive concern. I think they're one of the lowest scoring teams. If you put Oviedo aside, they're one of the lowest scoring teams in La Liga. Barcelona just played them, and I'll be honest, bro, put the score line aside, and that team was just dominated. Like, they had a couple one-off chances through Budimir and through counterattacks, but for the most part, like, I was watching a team that felt like they just didn't belong on the same pitch with Barca. It just, I mean, this is a very lowly attacking side. And if they don't find a way to start creating more opportunities, bro, I don't know how they have to do it. But something has to change with this team where I can see them falling in. They're tied with Girona on points at the moment. And it's either going to be them or we're going to see a shock relegation candidate in Real Sociedad. Like Sociedad, bro, has been on a downward trajectory for like 3 seasons in a row now. I'm waiting at some point for Kubo to move on. Merino's moved on, Odegaard's moved on, Zubamendi's moved on. Like I'm waiting for guys like Kubo, Bryce Mendez, other guys to just be like, you know what? I'm done with this shit. I'm out. They've already gone away from their manager in Awasil, who I thought was just like the San Sebastian guy through and through. He was Real Sociedad through and through. He's now out of there. I feel like they have no identity to who they are. It's typically a big game that we have coming up against this team, Barca, that we have in a few weeks. I'll be honest, bro, I'm not even fucking scared. Like, I normally would be scared to go to San Sebastian and try to get a result. I'm not feeling that whatsoever. So, I don't know, man. This team is a shell of what they used to be. Twice as many losses, wins. I would not be shocked if we get to, like, March and they're sitting there in 18th.
Yeah, I'm sure Arsenal would love to grab some guys from over there.
Hey, bro, listen. I'm okay. Bring me Kubo. Bring me fucking. I mean, Bryce Mendes wouldn't be a bad depth option either. But Sabal, fuck it. Like I think at the end of the day, they're gonna get dismantled if we get to like March or April, or even let's say they get to the end of the season, they get relegated. That team's never coming back. It's gonna feel like Malaga from the 2000s. That's it. It was just a cool story.
Going into that, talking about that January transfer window, by the way, is there a specific guy that you're like, if any of these teams in La Liga gets them, it's gonna to quote skills, you know, the world's watching, the world's waiting, get ready, like whatever he says.
Yeah, bro. Look, man, I think once upon a time that guy was Nico Williams, and then we were kind of waiting for the for who he was going to end up going to. It could have been Barca, it could have been somebody else. I think in the January window, La Liga teams, like they traditionally do, will not move. Many of these teams don't spend even in the biggest summer windows anyway. I think there are players that we could see move on even after January. I think the big name that everyone's kind of watching and throwing out there right now. So it's this one team in general, Atleti, who's probably going to have some movement both in January and the summer. I think the one player that probably moves on from them is probably going to be Sorloth. I think Alexander Sorloth is, honestly, it's kind of surprising because he had such an insane year last year. All the haters would say that those goals came in bunches against some of the bigger opponents and they weren't consistent. But bro, he was like the top 4 goal scorer in the league last season. I don't care who you are, like that. Those are impressive numbers. You should find a way to reinvest in that. Well, like they did was go the opposite way and they signed a bunch of attackers. So he's down the pecking order. I think he probably leaves. It could happen in January. He could end up in the Premier League. Like, we'll see. Or he might just move on to someone else in Spain, bro. Villarreal might look at him again because he had a stint there once upon a time. Sociedad might look at him to try and like revamp their season. Hell, bro, I'm not even gonna lie. If it was a loan deal or something, I'd take him at fucking Barca. Just to have like as an option off the bench with his heading ability. So there's options there for him. But then in the summer, man, Julian Alvarez is the one that I think everybody is watching, including his own agents and his team. I think if Atleti doesn't find a way with all the money they've spent to figure out to not just be top 3, but figure out how to be a true title contender, bro, you're gonna lose out on one of the biggest pieces you've ever brought in. So I don't know, man. Atleti has so many eyes on them from a number of reasons to try and turn things around for the second half of the season because January is about to be here, and then you have the summer window, which will be big for a number of reasons.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that, man. Obviously, is there anything else you want to talk about when it comes to La Liga right now?
No, man. I would just say, like, for all fans who are trying to dunk on La Liga right now, bro, get your licks in now. I get it. It is what it is. We haven't been this down bad in a little while, but I think a big second half of the season is looming. I think if you haven't started watching La Liga, bro, now is the time to tune in. I think the festive period creates so much chaos between the Supercopa, Copa del Rey matches coming into play. And then, of course, a 4-point gap between the top 2 teams. There's just so much to like as you prepare for also the last 2 Champions League matches of the league phase. I know everybody's watching Barca and Madrid. So that's going to be obviously the spotlight of the show. And I'm asking everyone to, bro, just please stick with the league, stick with these teams, because there's going to be some fireworks second half of the season for sure.
Definitely. Now, guys, this isn't the last time you'll see Jose. He's actually going to come on again to go talk about the Premier League, which is actually what we're going to segue over to.
Fight and win!
All right, guys, we have, of course, José Téllez, the founder, creator of Goals TV, and all the things that come with Goals TV. You'll catch me from time to time over there on Wake Up MLS and some other programming potentially over there. So we'll see. It's growing. It's exciting. But Jose, obviously, always a pleasure to have you on. Obviously, everyone just heard you talk about La Liga, but right now we're going to talk about the Premier League. So, Prem, man, I mean, I know this is a league that you love talking about.
Yeah, I used to. No, I still love it, bro. It's just 3 years of getting second place will put you in a very jaded place as a fan. So I proceed every game week with caution at this point. I love talking about it, bro, but we'll see how ruffled my feathers become the more we talk about this league.
Yeah, definitely, I get that part. So once again, just so you guys know, you look at if you're watching the video version. Clearly, there's a date up there. That means that is when we were looking at the table. If things have changed, it changed. I don't know what to tell you. Eat a dick. I don't know. Look. We're not gonna be accurate, you know. And Prim, I'm sorry, but yeah, they play into Christmas Day. So and I want to not be working on Christmas Day. So that's I think it's Boxing Day actually technically, but still.
Yeah.
Still gotta train. They still gotta go to the grounds. So. As of right now, it is December 15th. That is when we're recording it. I think I say this every single time as far as like doing the table look. But all right, let's just go right into the nitty gritty. We'll go right into that relegation zone. In 20th place, we got Wolves with 2 points. 2 points. Yeah, they're definitely getting relegated. I don't know. There's honestly, that would be amazing.
No, look, man, Rob Edwards has some miracles in his locker, but this is not one. I know he was brought in as the manager to turn this ship around, and brother almost got close against Arsenal. I'll give him that. It might be the highlight of their season, potentially, only losing by one to top of the table Arsenal.
It makes you feel better. They scored.
They scored both goals, so there's that. Yeah, man, it's tough, bro. Honestly, I still have no idea why Rob Edwards accepted that role. He knew how bad this team was and where they were when he accepted it to come in, and I don't think there's any saving this club. They may get a little bit better. They may make the relegation zone more competitive, but yeah, bro, I think this one's done. The other two are probably more relevant conversations.
Yeah, and that score is 19th place Burnley with 10 points and 18th place West Ham United. A very interesting turn of events that West Ham has gone through. Like for you, is it just because the roster's getting gutted, or what do you feel was going on there at West Ham?
I just think you could blame some of that, right? They have lost their best players over the last 3-4 years. I mean, you kind of expect that to an extent, but I don't think it's an excuse. I mean, look at Crystal Palace and what Glasner's doing over there with that team. Those guys have been robbed by everybody, right? Arsenal's taken Munich has taken, Bayern's taken Olise. That right there, in and of itself, Zaha's left, and even Zaha in his time with Palace was immense, right? So you look at some of their best attacking talent, kind of leaving, and them not skipping a beat. Somehow Palace still being even better this year than they were with some of their playmakers over the last 2 years. For that reason, I don't think you can give West Ham an excuse. Mm-hmm. The biggest fault they have is they just don't give anybody the time of day, bro. Like whether we're talking about Graham Potter, David Moyes moving on, and now they got Nuno Espirito Santo, who has a crazy task ahead of him. I still think they'll get out of the relegation zone. I'll be honest. I think me being a London club supporter, there's not a ton of love I have for West Ham, but at the same time, they feel too ingrained into what we know the Premier League to be. So I fully expect Nuno to work some magic. They're not crazy far behind the likes of Leeds, Forest, Brentford. There's a lot of time left. I expect them to find a way to get out, especially when you think about the competition they'll have back and forth with Leeds. Leeds had some crazy moments so far this season, but I think West Ham will find a way.
Yeah, I think the Prem, especially, it's really a dog-eat-dog league. Like anybody can really just ruin your season. And when you look at, before we get to the European competition size, like you mentioned, 17th is like not that far off from going into that relegation zone. But on the flip side, you can even argue like if things can turn around for Leeds, maybe they find their own run, maybe they add some pieces in that January transfer window, they can find themselves in a pretty good spot in Europe, obviously barring other things needs to happen, but still. So it's like kind of weirdly enough, like if you're Leeds, you're more than likely if you keep screwing up, you're gonna end up in the relegation zone. But if you can get some wins, you're not that far away from getting at least a Europa Conference League spot, which I can't guarantee you the Europa Conference League spot because they keep changing it every year because if you guys know UEFA, there's the coefficient, or I hate that I sound like I have to be a mathematician to talk about this, but there's always a chance that there's going to be 5 Champions League spots in the Prem. I say there's a chance because obviously we've had also previous years where the Bundesliga got that 5th spot. We've seen La Liga get that 5th spot. So, but it seems a lot of people are pretty cocky that the Prem is probably going to be the league that gets that 5th one. And that just goes back to the UEFA coefficient, which obviously Prem is probably viewed as the better league when it comes to UEFA. Take that for a grain of salt. I'm not going to be that guy, but I get it. So
yeah, I think it happens. The coefficient stuff, it changes year over year. I think, and that's something fans need to realize, bro. The Prem, sure. I've seen more Prem fans talk about Premier League in comparison to the rest of the European leagues more this season than I have in I don't know how many years. And sure, bro, as much as I love Arsenal, as much as I love the Prem, hold your heads high, and yes, talk with chest when you talk about this league this season. I think there's so many years that I feel like we heard crickets on the front of these European coefficients that factor into who gets those spots. The best leagues will. So yeah, I mean, this year Prem fans might be a little bit more than annoying, but at the same time, they've kind of been in the dark on that front for so long that at some point they were going to get the coefficient back.
Yeah, exactly. So this is going into the European competition. It's going in with the thought that they get that 5th Champions League spot. So that's just how I'm approaching it. If you guys don't like it, once again, you can refer to the other phrase that I used earlier. So currently in 7th place with that Europa Conference League spot would be Liverpool with 26 points, which is also, you're going to hear this number pretty frequently, actually, for the next 2 teams. The Europa League spot, you got Manchester United with 26 points in 6th place. And in that 5th, maybe, Champions League spot, I'll put an asterisk on there just in case, is Crystal Palace with, you guessed it, 26 points. So like I said, things can drastically change throughout the season. Obviously, Liverpool is a really interesting story right now because of all the drama that, like, say what you want about Real Madrid, which is that Jesus Christ, you already heard what we talked about Real Madrid, but I don't want to go back in there. Or going to get back in there. But yeah, I mean, Liverpool, obviously now everyone's talking about Arnie out after his debut season going as great as any debut season can go. You have Mohamed Salah, who is just very much not happy with his current situation. But in some sense, it's still Liverpool, right? Like, it's crazy that you go into a season where you're coming off of winning the Prem. You add guys like, Verts and Ekitike, you add Frimpong. You would think this team, you lose Alexander-Arnold, but you gain a Frimpong. Like, you think that this team is just going to continue on, especially with the way Arne Slot had this team playing. What is it about this season for Liverpool that has now become kind of I guess like a soap opera?
Personally, bro, I think if I had to boil it down to one thing, I think this is honestly what I expected from Liverpool last season. I'll be completely honest. I expected there to be somewhat of a drop-off after Klopp. I think the reason we didn't see a drop-off after Klopp left and stepped down as manager was that Slot came in and didn't change anything. Didn't get a chance to sign a bunch of players that he wanted, had to work with the pieces he had. The pieces he had, frankly, were pretty damn good. I think for anybody who was following the Prem last season realizes that Liverpool, the last few seasons in this, era of Klopp Liverpool, where they weren't seen as being quite as good of a team as they were during the whole City Pool era, where it was just them 2 teams 4 or 5 seasons in a row just constantly going at it for the title. It was seen somewhat of a down couple seasons, but in both of those seasons, they were in title contention. So that team was good enough, legitimately, in the 2 years leading up to Slot to win another Premier League title. And it, again, just with the likes of Arsenal and City being who they are, and Arsenal finding a way to stay around until the very end, like that's just, it didn't work out for him that way. But when Klopp left, I expected this kind of drop off because that's natural. For when a new manager comes in, has to work in new pieces, build his current players and new players around a brand new system, maybe move away from certain players like the Mo Salahs of the world, like the Virgil van Dijks of the world, or the Andy Robertsons of the world, who have to, take a somewhat of a backseat or be part of this new era in a way they weren't part of the previous era because of age or because of just the identity the new manager wants this team to have. So I expected all of that to just create some chaos for Liverpool. And if you told me, hey, they're sitting anywhere between 5th and 8th as part of this chaos that happened, okay, cool. Like to me, that makes sense. It's just freaking everybody out now because we didn't get that. It got delayed by a year. He came in, changed nothing, and it turns out he had a championship team at his disposal from the get-go. But now we're seeing the transition, and now we're seeing the cracks, right? The issues kind of appear. But I'm not surprised by it. I think the fans are probably a little bit too impatient. Last season was probably too good for them from their perspective, and that's the bar that Arne Slot set for himself as a manager. So, it's a little bit unfortunate. I think with the whole Mo Salah thing, brother, I mean, again, in the age of social media and players having more power than ever, I feel like you can say whatever you want. I mean, most players do in this day and age. I've never seen more Piers Morgan interviews than I've ever seen in my life up to this point, than in this era. But I will say that understanding all of that context, this is just the clearest sign that Slot, it can't really feel like a Slot team until he moves on from some of these, legacy pieces that he had at his disposal when he came into Liverpool. I think the biggest ones being Virgil because of cracks we're seeing with him and his play, and Mo for the same reason, but because of the fact that he's just so outspoken and believes he deserves something as a legend of the club. And he is a legend. I'm not going to sit here and say he's not, but there isn't a single player that's bigger than the club. I watched Messi leave my club at Barcelona. I've seen other players seemingly get pushed out. Ronaldo didn't get a chance to leave United the way he wanted to. At the end of the day, you're not bigger than the institution, and I feel like we're seeing that now. So I expect more hurdles, more slight ups and downs, ebbs and flows. But I think what Liverpool's going through, if you remove the context that we have at this moment, it feels pretty natural for what a club should go through when they go through transition like this.
Yeah, and I mean, you say that, and once again, they're on the same point total as a potential Champions League spot. So I mean, like, it's not necessarily doom. Once again, if you're talking about having a shitty year and it equates to a European competition spot, which those mid-table sides are like, sign me up, because a shitty year for them is flirting with relegation. You can ask Everton. So like, on the other side of of that Liverpool region, like, so I think for Liverpool it can be fixed. You do have that January transfer window. You said it right though. If things aren't working out, and I think I'll probably have said this already with Real Madrid, like, if you don't want to be here, there's the door. Like, go find you're gonna go to a club, maybe you fit well, or you're gonna realize the grass ain't always greener, and move on. And like you said, no one's going to be ever bigger than the club. And I totally agree with that. I think that's, at that point, beating of a dead horse at this point for anybody that's anyone tells me, oh, you like Real Madrid, so you must be a Ronaldo fanboy. I was like, I can give a rat's ass about Cristiano Ronaldo at this point. Like, he's over there doing his thing with Al Nassr. At Juventus, I gave two shits about Cristiano Ronaldo. The only time I ever cared about him was when he was with Real Madrid, doing his thing. But now that he's gone, he can fuck off. To be honest, like, I've never been a Ronaldo guy. I told you the story where I just could not take Ronaldo seriously, which was when he got hit in the face and had an ice cube holding an ice cube. Still can't believe that happened. I wish I was making that up. I did not make this up. Maybe I was high. I can't tell you, but it's one of those things where you can remember something and you're just like, this really happened. And so,
yeah, bro. Yeah, I totally feel that.
Like, I was like, I wish I made this up, but it's not. It's
real. It's real.
but once again, you're 26 points within. Actually, you're actually no points within that 5th place spot. in the Champions League, and I'll just go ahead and run out the fourth place is Chelsea with 28 points, which I'm sure if people remembered when me and Edward were, or actually, yeah, was it me and Edward? I don't remember anymore. When we were previewing the Premier League, I actually said, you know what, Chelsea might be good.
They might be good. They might be good. I mean, we say that for like the last few seasons in a row, to be honest.
Yeah, I think I got way too into it from the FIFA Club World Cup because I was I took a shot in the dark and I said, hey, you know what? This looks like a tournament that Chelsea could win. And of course it's a tournament that Chelsea could win.
Who knew, man? Who knew?
Best home field advantage.
Apparently Hector did.
Okay, well, I mean, I ranked them at third. But it was funny because I was like, well, I mean, it is the U.S., so there is a lot of Chelsea fans. So,
yeah, that's fair enough, bro. Yeah, it is what it is, bro. One thing I'll mention before we go to the rest of the top four, though, one bold take that I think, or not even a bold take, is probably just something to watch out for is I think the race between Palace and United will be super interesting for that last Champions League spot. I still feel like Liverpool would have more ups and downs to be had. I don't think the Mo Salah saga is over. I still think that there's issues they have to address. And again, not even just him. Wirtz is an issue. Alexander Isak is an issue. All this money they spent, those players not performing, that will continue to rear its head numerous times. I think mainly because Liverpool has multiple competitions to worry about. Palace and United do not. Palace has technically the EFL Cup, and if things go my way, they're going to be eliminated afterwards. They play Arsenal next. But I think if you put that cup aside, these two teams who are I would still say United's still a pretty good team, despite the obstacles that their manager puts in front of them with how he decides he wants to manage the game. I think those two teams have the most to go after right now. One competition to truly, truly focus on, and I don't know, man. In my mind, Glasner's the better manager. So I think it'll be just very, very interesting. United technically have the better players on paper in a number of areas, but I think for a number of reasons, I'm putting Sunderland aside because Sunderland. But I think those two will have to duke it out for that final spot.
No, yeah, I agree. I think it's funny because Manchester United, they were having talks about sacking Amorim, which I gotta say, stop roasting people for using a tactics board. What does that make fun? Why do you make fun of a guy for doing their job? I mean,
yeah, I have no problem with that, bro. I think that shit was funny because it was.
I mean,
he could have been probably doing something else, but the
memes were great.
The memes were amazing. My favorite one was the weed trade table. That was amazing.
Yeah.
But I think my issue with Amorim and why I think he won't last is because he just seems too naive to coach in this league. I think how you measure a coach is not by how good their team is on paper and the results they get on the pitch. I think you can buy teams in the age of modern football. It's more of, I say buy teams, buy trophies at the end of the day. We've seen teams do it. But I think that you can buy all the talent in the world, but it's like how you adjust to what the opponents throw at you, how fluid you are, and how you think about the game. Just adjusting because football is so situational. And this idea of dying by the tactics that you implement is a terrible philosophy. If anything, you're just showing people you only have one way of winning football matches. And that's what concerned me about Slot with Liverpool in the beginning too, was that he was like, hey, those interviews where he was like, oh, the reason we did so well today is because they didn't pressure us, in the back. They didn't press us high, so we actually got to play. We didn't have to do long balls. What you're actually doing is just giving every team a blueprint for how to beat you. That's what Amorim is doing without realizing it. He's just giving everybody a blueprint for how to beat him because he won't change up anything. So, I don't know, man. Amorim is a meme in his own right, but beyond that, there's just a lot of issues that United fans should have with how he approaches managing because, bro, you can't. I understand structure and being rigid to an extent and getting the most out of your players, but yeah, bro. Sometimes if it's not working, you just gotta switch shit up and be okay doing that. Be okay at being uncomfortable, and I feel like he's just not.
No, yeah, I could definitely get that sentiment. I think especially Edward who does like Manchester United, his whole thing is just all right, we let go of Amorim, but who's out there? Who's really
we know who's out there. We know who's out there.
Yeah.
Xavi Hernandez is waiting in the wind. And you know what, bro? I will say, as much as it would pain paying me to see Xavi coaching United, it just at least he can mix things up. At least he has a few different ways of playing the game. We saw that with Barca. I didn't agree with all of them when he was there, but shit, bro, if the missions win games, he knew how to do that. This guy won a league title with like 13 1-0 victories. Like, do it. I mean, that's the most anti-Barcelona way of playing ever. And shit, it got him a league title. I mean, bro, like I don't know. I think that there's other potential options out there. Hell, there's options in the Premier League that they could buy out right now. That would be a level up from Amorim.
Yeah, I could get that part. I would be intrigued because with Xavi, obviously culturally, I wonder if he would implement the same rules he made with Barcelona, with United, who probably should have those rules.
Probably.
Probably.
So accountability wouldn't hurt.
Yeah, it probably wouldn't be a bad idea. Yeah, but rounding out the Champions League, third place, Aston Villa with 33 points. That is interesting. I don't think anybody had that on their bingo card.
No.
Second place, Man City with 34 points. Also should point out, Erling Haaland leading goal scorer with 17 goals right now on his tally. Probably a big reason for Man City's, I guess, turnaround. I don't want to say turnaround because, I mean, yes, they had a terrible season the previous year, or at least to their standard. And, you know, they're just too good not to fail in my opinion. And once again, it is Pep Guardiola, even though it's probably getting old saying that same crap with Man City. It's literally rinse and repeat at this point with Man City when it comes to saying those things. But of course, currently on top of the league table, and I don't want to say it because I don't want to jinx anything, but currently on top of the table is Arsenal with 36 points. Jose, you've been here, you've been in this scenario before. Probably last time it was more of an insurmountable lead. The lead is a little bit tighter, but has Arsenal learned? Has this team learned from previous times that they've been in this scenario before?
I will say yes and no. Like, I say yes because, bro, there's no way you go through 3 straight years of that and not just finally understand collectively as a group what has to take place, not in the big games. And that's my issue with a lot of the pundits out there, the Paul Scholes, the Gary Nevilles, the all of those guys who are claiming like, hey, we're still seeing Arsenal not win the biggest games. That's why they're not going to get over the line. No. In fact, I will argue that that's never been the issue. I think Arsenal probably has the best record against the Big Six in the last half decade out of any team in the league, period. We've always been able to win the big games, at least recently. It's not that's not the issue. I think if the issue is winning against the teams that you should be beating, right? And when I say should be, I'm not talking about relegation candidates. I'm talking about the middle of the table. You know, the Fulhams, the West Hams. West Ham's in a relegation spot now, but they're traditionally not. The Brightons of the world. Those clubs give Arsenal serious trouble every single time they play. And that leads me to the upcoming schedule, right? So when I say yes, we can win the league 1000% this year, but this stretch that we have coming up between at the time of recording, this coming weekend is Everton away. Then we have Palace in the Cup. That's whatever. It's a one-off game. We'll probably rest some players in that one, sure. But after that, Brighton, Villa, Bournemouth, Liverpool. Those games are going to decide the title, in my opinion. This is the stretch. Whether we're talking about 2 years ago when we dropped back-to-back games between Fulham and West Ham, other seasons like that where you just feel like those missed points were what City needed to close the gap and then overtake us. I think all of the concentration has to be here. So I say yes, but to answer your question, yes, we can, but it will depend on this stretch of the season, which I'm hoping they've learned from past seasons. Mm-hmm. Now, equally, there's been 2 instances where I say no, because the mentality of this team is in such an up and down state, right? When I watched this past weekend against Wolves, there was a moment at the end of the game where when we got the equalizer, it was Mosquera's own goal header, the whole team goes to celebrate. Declan Rice does not. In fact, he kind of looks pissed. He gets over there and he's trying to like everyone, you know, Timber's shouting and screaming at the crowd, and Gapier's doing the same thing. Odegaard is even getting into it, and it's Xhaka, same thing. And you see Declan, he's kind of just like what are we doing? You know, like he kind of like, guys, let's get back. Like, one, the game's not over. We didn't win this game outright, and then two, we should have won this game. We should have blown this team out. This team has 2 points collectively, and we're top of the table. This shouldn't have even been a contest, right? So, and he knows. I think he knows deep down how poorly we played. So it was that game combined with the previous game's finish when we lost to Aston Villa 2-1. When the team fell when Dia got that goal, you see the entire team just collapse at the end. Like it was the one thing they feared happening more than anything else, which was losing the game. And I think sometimes when you're chasing something you've never won, there was this really cool quote that Thierry Henry had recently, and a lot of fans didn't get it in the comments, but I think I understood it perfectly. He said, sometimes the fear of winning is greater than the fear of losing. And I would say that's 100% true with this team. They've never won it. They've been chasing it forever. And now that we're this close, you fear a misstep, even in games that you have full control over, even in games that you're completely running away with it. And you know you're the better team in because you just don't want to be in the same spot that you were last season. And to me, it's a fear of winning. You legitimately are scared of what could happen on your path to hoisting that trophy. And it slowly turns into this fear of losing. You're playing to not lose a game, aka the Wolves game, where we're sitting back. When we're up 1-0 against Wolves at home, the last place team in the table, sitting back in the final few minutes of stoppage time, letting them cross and create the pressure, as opposed to taking the game to them. Mm-hmm. It's all of these things that lead me to believe that there's a little bit of doubt creeping in. But with all of this said, this team needs a reset in terms of, at this moment in time, we haven't had a full week to just not worry about games, to only focus on training, and focus on getting back to basics. Arteta hasn't had that time with his men in like over a month now. And we've just been 2 to 3 game weeks nonstop. Our injury report shows that. So now being able to take a break for a full week, hit the reset button, and go into a tough match at Everton, that's going to be a big one. But I think if they show me the Arsenal that we saw probably after the first international break, I think this will be what we needed to go on a little bit of a run, create that unbeaten streak that we had prior to losing to Villa. And from there, man, you never know. And we're going to need it because the only thing stopping City from being City is like literally Erling Haaland would have to go down. He would have to get injured or get suspended or just lose form, which is probably not going to happen. The guy's a freak of nature. So one of these very improbable things would have to take place for City to just take themselves out of the title race. So it really will take Arsenal grabbing this by the throat, and we're gonna start to see how possible that is in these next stretch of games, starting with Everton.
Yeah, I definitely get that part. Obviously, there's still games to be played, but that January transfer window is coming in.
Yeah.
If you're looking at any of these teams that are like right now on the outside looking in, what do you think? If you could pick one team, what do they need to get into a European spot? Maybe even contest for the Champions League.
That's a great question. I think, look, bro, I think the one piece that's probably going to move in general, and it'll be who ends up getting him, is going to be Antoine Semenyo. Now, it's crazy how many teams need a left winger. You think about Arsenal, Rodrigo's been thrown around in there, Semenyo's been thrown around in there, other names as well. City, they were pursuing Rodrigo. They were trying to ship out Savinho to Tottenham at one point. Didn't really pan out. There's rumors there. Villa need wingers. Chelsea buy every winger in the world, so you can argue they need wingers for whatever reason. Liverpool, United. There's just like more than a few of the top 7 teams who could use a guy who's proven like Semenyo to come in and to really bolster that spot. So I think personally, bro, I hate to say this because I would love him at Arsenal, but I don't think we pull the trigger in January. If we were to get him, it would be in the summer. So I think if someone's going to land him in January, it will be a tug of war between rivals, between City and United, or between United and Liverpool. I think either City or Liverpool will bow out at some point, either due to how much they've already spent or Semenyo just not choosing them. But I think United will stay in that contest for Semenyo. And I think that if they do get him, dude, it's going to be such a letdown because he's such a good player. I rate him heavily. So Yeah, man. I think he's the one player that a lot of teams will be looking at to bolster their attack. He has a release clause, an interesting release clause that can get triggered in the first 10 days of January. The price goes up if it goes beyond the first 10 days. So I'm really curious to see where he ends up if he moves. If he decides to be patient, I think most of the Prem knows that he's an Arsenal fan. So I'm hoping he chooses to be patient, wait for the team of his choosing, which I believe will come knocking in the summer.
Yeah, I think that that's going to be a big game changer, especially like you mentioned, Manchester United. If they're able to land him, that can jump them up from 6 all the way to not even have to worry about the 5th place spot. Just get that 4th place spot ahead of Chelsea, which once again they're very much in it. Now, do you see a team in any as far as like Champions League goes that you feel could drop off?
Yeah, I think it's easy to say Villa, and I think it's easy to say Villa because they just don't have the depth of talent and resources that the other teams have right now. Their ceiling right now is like third, second on the craziest win streak Unai Emery's been on since he's been in the Premier League. So at some point, that streak will have to come to an end, and I'm wondering what happens, what it takes for that to end, and how they bounce back from that. He doesn't have quite as many tools to call upon, so I think that'll be very interesting. Also, man, I think Chelsea should be pushing for second this year. They really should. I don't think they'll get it. I think Chelsea feels like Arsenal from 2 years ago, or even 3 years ago, where they could get up for the big games, make all the fan base believe that they have a real shot at pushing not just for top 4, but a title. But then they find a way to lose to, teams in the middle of the pack that they really have no business losing to, right? How is Leeds getting a result over you, right? How is who else they draw to? They drew to Arsenal, but there was another one, Bournemouth. How is Bournemouth getting that type of result? You guys don't generate much of anything. I know Cole Palmer wasn't in that game, but like it can't be so reliant upon one player when you've bought so much talent over the last few years. So and spent a lot on some of it. Caicedo, Enzo. Enzo's another player that I feel like, what do they say? He's proper Chelsea, but bro, to me, he's a worse version of some of their best midfielders who've come through. Like he's not worth the price tag up to, in my opinion. He's a very basic midfielder. I don't think he offers a ton. Like he's not bad, but he's not great, and for 100 million, definitely not worth that. So I think between Chelsea and Villa, that'll be a very interesting race, especially if Palace continues to go on the run that they're going on, continue to get points wherever they can. And if Man United decides to start stepping shit up, if they sign players in January and start going on a run, keep in mind they were almost up for a 5-game winning streak today if it wasn't for Bournemouth, that crazy 4-4 match that some of us saw today. United could creep in, Palace could creep in, Liverpool can decide that they're champions again and start kind of moving back up the table. Chelsea and Villa probably have the most to be worried about.
Yeah, I could definitely see that part. Yeah, I think you made it right. Aston Villa and Chelsea, I think, which I mean I'm all for, especially if we could see some young kid with depression. So I'm all for that. Just because I said Chelsea is going to be a good team doesn't mean I want them to be a good team.
Fair. So, I like that.
But yeah, that's the Premier League. Jose, is there anything else you want to add on to the Prem before?
No, man, just please, Arsenal, please do it, man. Do it. I've waited long enough, bro. I've not seen this team lift the Premier League since 8th grade. I'm 34 years old. I would love to be able to see my team lift it in a very different era of my life. And not just that, bro. I think we're also potentially in line for the Champions League. So a lot to play for. I just hope Arsenal finally gets it over the line. So fellow Arsenal fans, keep the fingers crossed, keep the faith alive, man. We got a big second half of the season coming.
I totally agree with that. But all right, Jose, this is your time. Let us know what's going on with Goals TV. I know there's some big changes happening. Is there anything we need to be looking forward to for Goals TV come 2026?
Bro, there's going to be a lot of content, man. A lot of content coming. Things we haven't talked about on the channel either ever or in such a long time. And we've been such a North American soccer-focused channel. I'm excited to bring things like La Liga-focused content to the channel. Premier League over time will also be working its way in, which is why I love that we're having this episode recorded today. But beyond that, bro, there's going to be other side of the border, Liga MX's content coming. I'm going to tease that a little bit now, but just different shows, different feels, different personalities, man, and potentially another soccer legend coming to the channel as well. So with their own series, we'll find out. I'll leave it there. There's a lot coming. So guys, if you appreciate any of what I just kind of mentioned, go visit Goals TV, check it out. Let me know what you think, and if you like it, subscribe. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure, man. And as you say that, we'll go ahead and segue into the Liga MX final.
I'm a pupusa man myself. Better than tacos to me. I gotta go with them.
Thank you so much to Moussa, Kelcey, and José Téllez for coming on, man. If you guys are watching the video version, links to their content is going to be in the description, so go ahead and check them out. Show them some love. But yeah, man, but we still have something else to recap, and that is the Liga MX final. It is concluded, and congratulations to Toluca for winning back-to-back Liga MX titles as they have won the Apertura. The first leg was a 1-1 draw. Actually, no, 1-1 draw. It was a 1-0 for Tigres. Tigres had 51% of the possession. Tigres outshot Toluca 10-7, 3-1 with shots on target. There was a total of 28 fouls in this game, 15 going to Tigres, the rest was going to Toluca. 4 yellow cards split between 2. There was a red card that was on Toluca's side, which was for Robert Morales, which, I mean, he came off the bench, so I don't necessarily think it was like a crucial loss. But the goal that came for Tigres, it was coming from Ángel Correa, who was obviously one of their big signings from Atletico Madrid. So, 1-0, obviously they're going into that second leg with an advantage, but we're all talking about going into Toluca, which I think, the crowd was epic. The crowd was, similar to the Liga MX, the Clausura final. That home field advantage did come into play. The game went the second leg, Toluca ended up winning in penalties, so the game went the distance, went to penalties, which I think this kind of makes up for what happened in the semifinals. But once again, I do think Liga MX needs to fix the aggregate goal rule. I get it for like the first round, but semifinals, I think we need to go the distance. But yeah, Toluca in this game had 67% of the possession. Obviously, as they're trying to get back, trying to win this game, they actually started down a goal. They actually were down 2 goals at one point in the aggregate. But Toluca had 67% of the possession. Toluca also outshot Tigres 23-7, 11 shots to 4 shots on target. There was a total of 34 fouls. It got, obviously they're doing all that they can to stop and slow down Toluca. But 18 was coming from Tigres. The rest was to Toluca. 7 yellow cards. 4 yellow cards for Toluca, 3 for Tigres players. And the series went as the goal scored. Like I said, the first goal that was scored was in the 14th minute by Fernando Goriaran from Tigres, who put them in a 2-goal lead, which is probably one of the more dangerous leagues when it comes to football. But in Toluca, El Niño comes in, scores in the 40th minute, and of course their big guy up top, Paulinho, scores in the 52nd minute to put them in a potential shot at trying to get the win. Obviously no goal came from it. They went to extra time, same thing. So it went down to penalties. And Toluca wins 9-8 in penalties. As a matter of fact, they had to go to sudden death 7 times in penalties, because there was a point where I felt for Toluca, because there was so many opportunities where they could have just finally put it away. They could have finally just got the win, and it just didn't work out in their favor. It went to the final one, which actually went back to the penalty kick taking order. So Ángel Correa goes up, kicks his penalty, misses his penalty. Well, I believe it was actually saved, and then Vega, the captain, though he was on the bench in this game, but he did eventually come in the game, and comes in and scores the final penalty to give Toluca their second consecutive Liga MX trophy. Toluca now wins it back to back, and now I think now we cannot say that this trophy, not that it is hard. It is immensely hard to win back to back. Let's just be honest, but it's just like, because now you had the last one was America, who had a 3-peat, and now you have to look at with a repeat. Obviously going into that Clausura hoping for that 3-peat, but I mean, Toluca, I think it just, all the work that they have done to once again return to being on top of Liga MX. I think historically, when you think of Liga MX teams, obviously you think of America and Chivas, but Toluca has to be in that discussion because even though, and I believe it, Toluca is like a very small city. Obviously I'm not familiar with Mexico like that, not Mexican, but to like understand, like, throughout the times, Toluca has always found success. I think, like, when you go back to the 70s, the 80s, not the 90s. I think the 90s they didn't really have much. The 2000s, the 2010s, and now the 2020s, like, Toluca's always been in that conversation. As a matter of fact, with this trophy, now they are up to 12 trophies in Liga MX, which now ties Chivas de Guadalajara at second in the trophy count. Obviously, first being Club America. That should tell you everything about Toluca's history and obviously identity. I think a lot of people, if you talk to a lot of Liga MX fans, a lot of them will refer to Cardozo as like one of the best players in Liga MX history. I'm not going to say the best, but I'm going to say one of the best players in Liga MX history. And honestly, I don't consider myself a fan of Toluca, but when I started watching Liga MX when I was in middle school, Toluca was the team that I genuinely enjoyed watching. I liked watching Cardozo. I liked Vicente Sanchez. I liked Hernan Cristante, Paulo da Silva, Sinha. Like, I liked watching those guys. And like I said, I didn't identify myself as a fan. I did have a Toluca kit. I still do have Toluca kits, but like I don't necessarily identify myself as a Toluca fan. I just don't really have that connection, in my opinion, to say that. But this is what this club is known for, man. And you know, they win aggressive in recent years. They did a massive overhaul of players. Now they're bringing in guys like Paulinho. Bringing back Vega, I think, was very important. I think bringing in HH, though, now he's more on the bench more so than being on the field. But bringing guys with winning mentality, I think was important. And I think for Vega, I think it just means more. This guy came up through Toluca. I would imagine he's a local kid. I can't tell you much. But I know that's where he started his career. And for him to be able to find this success with Toluca after struggling with Chivas and things, you know, people calling him a bust. People not really wanting to see him in the Mexican national team. Some people do want to see him in the Mexican national team. But like seeing all of that and to come back to Toluca and be able to provide 2 titles for them, it's massive, man. And yeah, man, Toluca is a great team. I think it's going to be interesting how they top this season. Oh, and also, I mean, Mohamed, one of the best decisions for them to bring him in as their manager, because I think he is just a great addition when it comes to Liga MX, and I think knows the league very well, knows how to win this league, and I think that was a great move for Toluca to go get a guy that has pedigree in this league. And yeah, this team is brilliant. They really are. So we'll see what happens. Marcel Ruiz also should give that guy a shout. He's got to go to Europe, man. Like, I'm not Mexican. I really have no reason to I don't root for the Mexican national team. But like, I mean, you know, Marcel Ruiz is so good, man. Like, I think he deserves a shot at Europe, man, to see what he can do to elevate himself. I think he should be getting more shouts in Mexico. Yeah, man, it's insane. But, you know, congratulations to Toluca. Win back-to-back, 12th trophy in their team's history. Obviously, they're going to be eyeing 13 now, especially with the way these guys are playing. 13 seems like it's going to be more sooner rather than later. But we'll see what happens, man. I can't wait. Liga MX the Clausura is going to be a little bit different because of some of the rules that Liga MX are implementing, being that a lot of the players that will be playing for the Mexican national team will not be available near the end of the season. So that's going to be interesting, especially, when you look at the teams that do have players that play for the Mexican national team. So it's going to be an interesting thing. We'll get to that when we actually talk about like the Clausura, but it is going to be interesting to follow this season. So congratulations to Luka, back-to-back champions. That's all I got to say, man. We're actually going to do things a little differently. We're actually going to give you guys games to watch, and then we will conclude with player of the year. So games to watch this weekend, man. We got some important matches in the Scottish Premier League. We got Hearts taking on Rangers and Celtic taking on Aberdeen in Scottish Premier League. The seed right now for Wilfred Nancy is hot. Can he get back on the good graces of Celtic? I don't think he's fired yet. But if he doesn't start winning, it's gonna be a rough one. Ligue, they got Coupe de France. So if you guys want to follow up on that one, check it out over there. In the Bundesliga, Coupe de France, early stages. So in the Bundesliga, we got Borussia Dortmund taking on Borussia Mönchengladbach, and RB Leipzig taking on Bayer Leverkusen. Some very key matches, especially with that RB Leipzig Bayer Leverkusen matchup. In the Serie A, we got Juventus taking on Roma. Big matchup there. And Genoa taking on Atalanta. I said a lot of things about Atalanta, and I hope that they do come to full fruition for me. In La Liga, we got Real Madrid taking on Sevilla and Villarreal taking on Barcelona. The game that was supposed to be played here in Miami is now being played at Villarreal, so we'll see how that game transpires. In the Premier League, we got Tottenham versus Liverpool and Aston Villa taking on Manchester United. Obviously, these are not all the matches that are being played this weekend, but if you guys need a good beginner's guide, well, there it is. Now, the 2025 Roosevelt Spencer's Player of the Year Award. So, if you guys want to know how it works, every week throughout the year, me and Edward have selected a Player of the Week. Every time that player gets featured in Player of the Week, we do a tally. So, as many times that player has been selected for Player of the Week, we put it on a spreadsheet, and whoever has been selected the most is our Player of the Year. This year, there has been a tie. This year has been interesting for Player of the Week selections because there hasn't been anybody that has been consistently as dominant. So this one's a little bit of a, I would say, kind of a meh year, but we are where we are. But yeah, so we're going through our selection process, and so this year it is a tie. It is between two players, Harry Kane and Kylian Mbappe. Harry Kane, very important to Bayern Munich. Kylian Mbappe just doing what he does best, which is scoring goals and hoping that his teams can win because of him. But yeah, I think that this was an interesting pairing. I think that most people are probably going to be like, what the fuck? Sorry for cussing, Kelcey, when it comes to these selections. But, it's not like the years before where it's Robert Lewandowski has just been very dominant, or Erling Haaland has had like dominant performances. It really hasn't been like that this year. So, and it's obviously the year. So from January to now, that's what we mean. Not we don't go by seasons, we go by the year. So with all that being said, man, with a whopping vote of 75% for this one player. But before we get to that, Roosevelt Spencer. Why is the award called the Roosevelt Spencer Player of the Year? Well, for a lot of reasons. Roosevelt Spencer is as reliable as can be. He's dependable. He's important to us. He is a big inspiration for us. He is now a father. And, all the things that this man does for the show, always coming up with cool ideas, cool beats, and like I said, he's an integral part of this podcast, and we can't see this podcast without him. And that's the qualities that we look for in a Player of the Year. Dependability, always there, ready to fight. So that was what we valued, and that is the reason why we named the award after Spencer. And those are the qualities we look for in a Player of the Year. So when you look at Kylian Mbappe, obviously goal scoring ability, wants the ball, wants the pressure, wants to be the guy. You look at Harry Kane, hungry, wanting that his wanting the work, wanting the grind, wanting to be the person that helps his team win, wants to be the leader up top. Qualities that we all think are worthy of Roosevelt Spencer. But with a vote of 75%, the 2025 Roosevelt Spencer Player of the Year Award is Kylian Mbappe from Real Madrid. So congratulations, Kylian Mbappe, for being the 2025 Roosevelt Spencer's Player of the Year Award. Congratulations. Don't know how we're going to send you a trophy. I don't even know if there is a trophy, but you are our Player of the Year. So congratulations. And with all that being said, we're going to go ahead and take a break and then go right into ending this very, very long episode.
Hey everyone, it's Ryan from No Credentials Required to talk to you about one of our newest partners at Belly Up Sports, SeatGeek. Yeah, live sports is great on television, but the feeling of being at the arena is a priceless experience. That's why our friends at SeatGeek are there to help you find the best tickets at the best prices. Not only can you get tickets to sporting events, but you can also get tickets to concerts, comedy shows, musicals, and more. Search for your desired event now at SeatGeek.com, enter promo code BellyUpSports at checkout, and you save $20 off your first purchase. SeatGeek. Life's an event. We have the tickets.
All right, guys, that is the end of the year episode. Congratulations to Kylian Mbappe for winning the Player of the Year award. Maybe some people were not going to like that, but you know what? It is what it is. Shout out to Moussa. Shout out to Kelcey Coyne from High Low Sports. Shout out to José Téllez of Goals TV for coming on and talking on this episode. Yes, it is a long episode, but it was really well worth it. It's always great to have those guys on. So make sure you guys, like I said, links to their channels are going to be on this video. So make sure you guys go out and give them some love. But with all that being said, man, shout out to Belly Up Sports. Check out the website, bellyupsports.com. Check out all the articles that are constantly being written over there. Great articles, great writing. NFL is kind of going near to the tail end of their season. College football playoffs are about to kick off. Lots of things that needs to be talked about as far as American sports. NBA Cup, lots of things. So check it out so you can see what's going on there. Follow them on Instagram and X at BellyUpSports, the internet sports bar. Go ahead and check them out. Goals TV, man. Follow them on X at goals_TV, Instagram at goals.tv. Check out their YouTube channel, Goals TV, man. It is happening there. Lots of changes that are happening, man. Lots of content that's going their way over their goals. So go ahead, give them some love, man. You'll see me there from time to time on Wake Up MLS and potentially some other projects. So go ahead and check that out there as well. And of course, the namesake of the Roosevelt Spencer's Player of the Year Award, Roosevelt Spencer. If you guys are listening to the audio version of this podcast, you hear the beats, the intros, and outros. If you're listening to the video version of this podcast, if you hear some of the ad reads, like some of the beats is made by Roosevelt Spencer. So we appreciate Spencer. We love Spencer. That's why we named the award after him. But if you guys need some help with beats, well, hit up our guy Roosevelt Spencer. Follow him on Instagram at thatguydope. Once again, at thatguydope, and he will take great care of you like he always does with us. So with all that being said, man, thank you so much for listening to episode 242. I think it's 242. The end of the year episode. I wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. I hope your 2026 is amazing. I hope your 2025 was amazing. And yeah, let's get 2026 with a bang and have another fantastic year. Take care, guys.